Chapter 1088. On the Nirvana Dragon platform, energy was surging and crushing. Shirsusu, Qin Yusheng, Jing Qiran, and the others who were walking at the front were all under unimaginable pressure. In the process of climbing, it was as if they were carrying a huge mountain on their back. Every step they took on the jade steps would cause a huge vibration, causing the space to tremble along with them. Every time they climbed a jade step, their speed would slow down by a little. This was the horror of the Nirvana Dragon platform. Even the most talented people would be suppressed. As for ordinary people, they were not qualified to set foot on it. Su-yi, Chao Yunfei and Fu Dongxian were shocked when they saw Su-yi overtake them. However, they did not try to stop him. The real contest would only begin after they reached the 10th level. The 6th level. Su-yi looked up. He was not far from the 6th level of the Nirvana Dragon platform. However, there were 3 people in front of him who had already passed the 6th level. It was not difficult for Su-yi to see that the strength of Shirsusu, Qin Yusheng, and Jing Qiran was absolutely extraordinary. Each one of them was probably not inferior to Wu Jiyo. In particular, Su-yi could not help but be surprised by Shirsusu, who was at the front. The last time they fought, Shirsusu's strength was slightly weaker than the current Wu Jiyo. However, in the past few days, she had surpassed him by a lot. It seemed that she had gained a lot in the secret realm and had definitely made a breakthrough. Let's go. Su-yi's eyes flashed as he continued to climb. Buzz buzz, Su-yi took a step forward and felt an endless surge of energy. It was as if an invisible wave was slapping on his body with great momentum. However, this kind of pressure was not enough to affect Su-yi's actions. The young man's figure continued to climb, step by step, with incomparable firmness. It was as if he was cutting through the waves as he chased after the few figures in front. The 7th level. Shirsusu is the first to reach the 7th level. Qin Yusheng and Jing Qiran are not slow either. They are only 2 steps away from Shirsusu. The hundreds of people below looked at the scene on the stage, and they were all amazed by the few people who were climbing the fastest. Look at Su-yi, he's about to catch up with Jing Qiran, Qin Yusheng. The most shocking thing was that the Bawang sect youth was getting closer and closer to the 3 people in front of them. If this trend continued, it was likely that in the end, he would be able to step onto the 10th level at the same time as Shirsusu. Under the shocked gazes of the crowd, these figures had an absolute advantage and left everyone behind them far behind. When Jing Qiran stepped onto the 8th floor, Su-yi overtook him. Afterwards, before reaching the 9th floor, Su-yi once again passed Qin Yusheng. Is he really just a nameless Bawang sect disciple? How terrifying! As he watched the youth slowly walk past him, the corners of Qin Yusheng's eyes trembled, and his gaze contained an unimaginable emotion. He had also paid a little attention to the previous battle between Su-yi and Wu Jiyo, but he did not watch it too attentively. However, after seeing what was happening before his eyes, Qin Yusheng could only conclude that Su-yi was terrifying. It's the last level. Su-yi raised his head and looked ahead. There was a beautiful figure, and it was Shirsusu. At this time, she was already on her way to the 10th step. In response, Su-yi's lips curled into a smile. What he did next immediately caused the people watching below to cry out in surprise. Look, Su-yi's speed has increased again. How is this possible? The higher you go on the Nirvana Dragon platform, the greater the pressure and the slower the speed. How can he be faster? It's too terrifying. Su-yi did not use his full strength before. At this time, it was not difficult for everyone to see that the Bawang sect youth had indeed not used his full strength. From the beginning to the end, his speed had not changed much, completely unlike Chao Yunfei, Fu Dongxian, Jing Qiran and the others, whose speed was greatly affected the higher they went. Even Qin Yusheng and Shirsusu, who were walking at the very front, had slowed down quite a bit compared to the beginning. Su Yi's sudden increase in speed at this time could not help but shock everyone. Su Yi can surpass Shi Susu without even setting foot on the 10th floor. Someone murmured with shock and astonishment. Everything they saw today had refreshed their understanding of the world several times. The youth of the Bawang sect, who was only 17 years old, had amazed them time and time again. Under the intense gaze of many pairs of eyes, Su Yi took a step forward, stepped behind Shi Susu, and walked side by side with her. Just when everyone thought that he would pass her in the next step, Su Yi slowed down again and turned his head to look at Shi Susu. What is Su Yi doing? Why did he slow down again? Many people below were puzzled and looked up at the Nirvana Dragon platform in surprise. Could it be that he was already an arrow at the end of its flight, and now his strength is exhausted? It doesn't look like it. The spectators were all puzzled and did not know what was going on with Su Yi. Of course, they did not know that when Su Yi was about to pass Shi Susu, he suddenly heard two words through gritted teeth: "Little thief." He could not help but raise his eyebrows. He turned his head to glare at Shi Susu and said in a deep voice, "Was the beating last time not enough?" Su Yi was really angry. He knew that Shi Susu really wanted to call him a perverted thief, but she was afraid that Qin Yusheng and the others would hear it and have their imagination run wild, so she called him a little thief instead. "Little thief you." Hearing Su Yi's words, Shi Susu was about to explode. When he mentioned what had happened last time, she only felt that her whole body was not good. That experience simply caused her to collapse and go mad even more than what had happened in the barbaric demon forest all those years ago. Little thief, if you call me that again, I really won't let you go next time." Su Yi stared at Shi Susu and said in a deep voice. He was also speechless to the extreme. Why was it that every time he met this crazy woman, his heart would be galloping like an alpaca? Huff! Shi Susu's eyes suddenly widened, and the qi in her body became somewhat chaotic due to her anger. The powerful force of the Nirvana Dragon platform attacked her, causing her body to sway slightly. She only managed to stabilize herself after resisting with all her strength. She looked at Su Yi hatefully. "Since you can also reach here, then let's fight on the 10th floor. Today I must kill you." Shi Susu's words were cold. She reached out to pull a strand of hair from her forehead and tucked it behind her ear. Then, she ignored Su Yi and continued to climb the platform with all her strength. Shi Susu's heart was filled with endless resentment towards this youth. Everything that the other party had done to her could only be washed away by killing him. In addition, her blood demon killing god sword was still with Su Yi. Shi Susu had to regain that item. "I'll wait for you on the 10th floor of the Nirvana Dragon platform. But if you can't kill me, then don't blame me for being impolite if you dare to shout at me again." Su Yi's face turned serious as he said in a serious tone. Then, he flicked his sleeves and increased his speed, quickly passing by Shi Susu's side. Wrapped in the energy of the Nirvana Dragon platform, his body moved like a ship braving the wind and waves, causing ripples of energy to appear around him. Su Yi is so strong. Below, Ji Hanua watched all of this with an indescribable brilliance in her large eyes. It's just that between him and Shi Susu, when she saw Su Yi and Shi Susu looking at each other, Ji Hanua's heart was in a mess. She only felt some inexplicable jealousy. When Su Yi recently surpassed Shi Susu, Ji Hanua finally let out a sigh of relief. She gently stuck out her tongue, wondering what was wrong with her. Su Yi is first. He has surpassed Shi Susu and will soon set foot on the 10th floor of the Nirvana Dragon platform. Shi Susu is only a few steps behind. She's not much slower than Su Yi. Qin Yusheng and Jingqiran will be there soon. Hundreds of gazes were fixed on the Nirvana Dragon platform. They finally saw the leading youth from the Bawang sect step onto the last step. He was the first to reach the 10th floor of the Nirvana Dragon platform. Boom! When he took this step, the entire Nirvana Dragon platform suddenly shook as if an invisible hand had grabbed it and violently shook it. That youth's figure was like an ancient tree with twisted roots. He was as steady as Mount Tai and didn't move at all. Whoosh, in the blink of an eye, a monstrous force surged forth like a tidal wave and instantly enveloped Su Yi's body. Outside his body, lightning flashed, earth fire rose, strong winds whistled, ice appeared, and thick earth shook. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, and lightning, 7 different elemental forces, layer by layer, all lingered around Su Yi's body and turned into a terrifying and boundless power that suppressed his body. These forces were all-pervasive and crazily invaded Su Yi. Is this the power of the 10th floor of the Nirvana Dragon platform? Even with Su Yi's cultivation, he also felt the boundless pressure at this moment. He could only use his own Yuan Qi to resolve it. Although he could still bear it, it would be difficult for him to exert even 20% of his strength if he fought with others at this moment. Boom! Another loud tremor. Su Yi turned his gaze and saw Shirsusu had also stepped onto the platform. Her delicate body swayed slightly and she almost lost her balance, but she quickly regained control of her body. After Shirsusu stepped onto the platform, she met Su Yi's eyes but didn't say anything. Boom! Boom! Not long after, several more tremors were heard. Qin Yuxing and Jingqiran stepped onto the 10th floor of the Nirvana Dragon platform. After a while, Chao Yunfei and Fu Dongxian followed closely behind. They weren't slow either. The 6 Origin Void Realm martial artists have all stepped onto the 10th floor of the Nirvana Dragon platform. Next, there will be a battle between them. I wonder who will be the last one standing. This is the Battle of Heaven's Prides. The one who occupies the highest floor of the Nirvana Dragon platform will be the King of Heaven's Prides. Chapter 1089. Not only below the Nirvana Dragon platform, but also in 9-Star City, countless people were looking at the huge light screen. Everyone was shocked by Su Yi of the Bawang sect. That young man had shocked them time and time again. From the beginning of the preliminaries until now, almost everyone was not optimistic about him, again and again. Now, there were no more voices of doubt. No matter how unwilling they were to admit it, they had no choice but to be convinced by his strength. Both Su Yi's name and the Overlord sect he represented would surely spread across the entire Chaos Realm after the Alliance gathering, and everyone would know about it. Now, the biggest thing to watch is his final ranking. As an existence of the Origin Void stage, Su Yi would definitely occupy the Nirvana Dragon platform once, and his ranking would not be low. Do you think he has a chance of becoming the King of Heaven's Prides? Someone murmured expectantly. Everyone who heard this fell into silence, and no one spoke for a while. Now that things had come to this, no one dared to easily question the young man. In the process of ascending the platform, he had surpassed all the 5 Origin Void stage experts and was the first to set foot on the 10th floor. Such strength was already shocking enough. Now, they could only wait and see if any accidents would happen next. The 10th floor of the Nirvana Dragon platform represented the top 10 Heaven's Prides. The person who occupied the 10th floor would be the King of Heaven's Prides. Since everyone is here, let's not delay any longer. Let's fight. On the 10th floor of the Nirvana Dragon platform, Qin Yuxing glanced at Su Yi and Shirsusu, who were the first to ascend the platform, and then turned to look at Jingqiran, Chao Yunfei, and Fu Dongxian. Only one person was destined to remain on each floor, so the 6 of them had to determine the winner first. How do we fight? Jingqiran raised his eyebrows and asked. He was dressed in a white robe, with a slender figure and a handsome face. He stood there with a strong aura fluctuating from his body. After Jingqiran asked this question, everyone looked at the young man not far away at the same time. According to the old rules passed down in the past, let's fight in pairs according to the order of ascension. The winner shall remain and the loser shall retreat to the next floor. Qin Yusheng spoke again. This rule is pretty good. Su-yi nodded. He understood what Qin Yu meant. The first and second contestants would compete against each other, while the third and fourth, and the fifth and sixth contestants would compete against each other. The winner would continue to stay on the 10th floor, while the loser would retreat to the 9th floor for the next round of competition. Then let's begin. Fu Dongxian, who was from the Blood Sun sect, shouted. Then, he rushed towards Chow Yunfei. The terrifying force of the Nirvana Dragon platform suppressed his body, but it still couldn't stop a blinding light from bursting out. It was as if a bloody sun was blooming with a frightening momentum. The first level of the Origin Void stage, not bad at all. Su-yi watched as they began to fight. Soon, he was able to determine the cultivation levels of Chow Yunfei and Fu Dongxian. Walala, in the next moment, Qin Yusheng and Jing Qiran also began to fight. It wasn't difficult for Su-yi to notice that both of them were at the second level of the Origin Void stage. Qin Yusheng punched out fiercely and smashed the energy of the Nirvana Dragon platform into a boundless airwave that went straight for Jing Qiran. Jing Qiran didn't even flinch when faced with such an attack. He actually met it head-on with a punch. Suddenly, a powerful explosion erupted between the two of them. It set off a terrifying energy that surged madly. Su-yi raised his brows. Perhaps Jing Qiran had concealed a portion of his strength earlier. Now that they were truly fighting, he was actually not weaker than Qin Yusheng. Little thief, watch out for my sword. At this moment, a delicate shout sounded in Su-yi's ears. Immediately, he saw a wisp of sword light soar through the sky. It carried an incomparably sharp aura as it slashed through the waves. Crazy woman! Su-yi cursed in his heart. He felt that Shi Susu was really unreasonable. She kept calling him little thief, which made him feel very uncomfortable. When he saw Shi Susu's sword coming at him, Su-yi didn't delay and directly executed the Skyward's myriad transformation steps to dodge this attack. Fighting like this is really a bit of a hindrance. Under the effect of the Nirvana Dragon platform's energy, Su-yi felt his entire body was covered in energy, causing his movements to suffer an extremely great obstruction. It was as if he was fighting in water, and his movements were greatly slowed. At the same time, he had to divide a large portion of his energy to resist the terrifying energy that invaded his body. Wind God's Heaven's startling sword. After Shi Susu's attack was dodged by Su-yi, she shouted again. Terrifying origin energy burst out from his body and instantly flowed into the sword in his hand. Hiss hiss, instantly, a piercingly cold wind whistled and swept around him, causing the energy of the Nirvana Dragon platform to become chaotic. Wind blades that could be seen with the naked eye converged on the sword, causing the entire sword to shine brightly. At this moment, the sword in Shi Susu's hand seemed to have turned into a beam of light that pierced through the heavens and earth. The sword beam was earth-shattering and could crush everything as it brazenly slashed down at Su-yi. DJ D0's Royal Grade Martial Technique? Su-yi's face changed. He had unknowingly retrieved a longsword from his interspatial bag and made a sword sign. Instantly, cold air shot out in all directions, and an awe-inspiring aura was released. It turned into a vast sword light and clashed with the former. This was the Ice Shadow Sword art from the Demon Spirit Truth. The Demon Spirit Truth focused on spirit, and could use the soul to guide the might of 10,000 beasts. Its attack contained a soul attack and could borrow the might of 10,000 beasts to sweep out in all directions. Chi La, the golden spear did not stop, releasing a dazzling light. Strong winds swept out in all directions, and the energy of the Nirvana Dragon platform became chaotic. The two sword beams shattered, and Shi Susu's expression changed greatly. For no reason, she felt that her soul was greatly affected. Kaka, the sword in Su-yi's hand, cracked and a gap appeared. Its grade was still a little too low. He did not dare to take out a broken sword to fight Shirsusu. Things went wrong, this woman might really go berserk. You should admit defeat. Once the attack landed, Su-yi took advantage of the situation and moved forward. Yuan Qi flashed under his feet. The rising Yao 100 transformation steps was executed again. His body was like a ghost as he instantly closed in on Shirsusu. Shirsusu was shocked. Her face turned pale and her beautiful figure quickly retreated. However, Su-yi's speed was like a shadow. He forcefully carved out a deep ravine in the invisible energy of the Nirvana Dragon platform. Qi in a panic, Shirsusu suddenly raised her hand and a scarlet light palm shot out towards Su-yi's chest. Scarlet flame palm. When Su-yi saw this, he also struck out with his palm. Fire attribute Yuan Qi burst forth and burned fiercely. A huge flaming palm swept across the sky. Boom! After a loud explosion, a terrifying force spread out and set off a huge storm on the Nirvana Dragon platform before being suppressed by the surrounding forces. Su-yi's figure did not move, but Shirsusu was forced back 7 to 8 steps. She groaned as the shock was not small. "I'm not playing with you anymore," Su-yi suddenly said in a low voice. Then his figure moved quickly and flew around Shirsusu like a gust of wind. He waved the sword in his hand repeatedly and condensed 13 sword beams in an instant. They attacked Shirsusu from all directions at the same time. Su-yi finally executed the 13 gale swords. This sword art was one of the best among the royal grade martial skills. The 13 sword beams soared across the sky. In an instant, the sound of swords humming rang out. A fierce wind swept out with a whistling sound and surrounded Shirsusu's figure. Clang clang clang, in the face of such an attack, Shirsusu gathered all her energy and hurriedly responded. However, due to the suppression of the Nirvana Dragon platform's power, her movements were very slow. Compared to Su-yi's 13 sword beams, she was too inferior. In just a short moment, a ray of sword light struck her arm, leaving a bloody wound that was deep enough to reach the bone. Shirsusu hurriedly responded. In the midst of the chaos, she finally managed to resolve Su-yi's attack. Her hair was already a little messy. "Don't move." However, before Shirsusu could stand firm, an ice-cold long sword was already in front of her. The other end of the long sword was in Su-yi's hand. While she was dealing with the 13 sword beams, the young man actually took the opportunity to get close to her without her noticing. Shirsusu didn't even think about it. Her figure was about to explosively retreat. "Don't move or I won't be polite." A hand reached out to Shirsusu's back, and with a "paw" sound, it landed on her perky but crisp and melodious. "Little thief, how dare you!" Shirsusu's beautiful eyes narrowed, and her voice suddenly rose by 9 octaves. She almost screamed. The burning pain from her back made her both angry and ashamed. She glared fiercely at Su-yi as if she wanted to eat someone. "Slap! If you call me little thief again, I'll hit you," Su-yi sneered. "Hey, what did I just see?" Such a scene quickly attracted the attention of the onlookers. That crisp sound also surprised Qin Yuxing, Jing Qiran, and the other 3 who were fighting not far away. "Su-yi, he actually hit my goddesses, but... ah! Damn scum!" At this moment, whether it was under the Nirvana Dragon platform or among the countless spectators in 9-Star City, countless people heard the sound of their hearts breaking. Their goddess was actually blasphemed by that brat Su-yi. That incomparably cold and aloof goddess was in existence that all of them felt insulted just by fantasizing about it. How could she be taken advantage of by that brat? "Let me go." Shirsusu's face became even colder as she coldly said. "You're still panting? Do you admit defeat?" Su-yi also sneered and slapped again with a slap. The touch from his fingertips made him feel incomparably wonderful. Countless people saw this scene and their eyes suddenly turned red. Chapter 1090. It wasn't hard to imagine that Sure Susu's heart was filled with shame and anger. If her gaze could turn into a knife, she would probably kill Su Yi without leaving a corpse behind. What happened here made Qin Yuxing, Jing Qiran, Chao Yunfei, and Fu Dongxian, who were fighting not far away, stop. Miss Sure, why don't we attack together and drive this kid off the 10th level of the Nirvana Dragon platform first? Fu Dongxuan's gaze focused as he looked at Su Yi and said, I think that's a good idea. Otherwise, we'll be tied down by him here. Why don't we drive him off this level first, and then we'll continue to fight? Chao Yunfei's eyes flickered as he nodded. Jing Qiran and Qin Yuxing didn't express their opinions, but they stared at Su Yi at the same time and didn't say anything to oppose. In fact, the four of them had already seen that Su Yi was absolutely powerful. Even Sure Susu was no match for him and would soon be defeated. If they fought one-on-one, the qualification to enter the 10th level of the Nirvana Dragon platform would probably fall into his hands. They couldn't accept such an outcome no matter what. No need, I admit defeat. Sure Susu's pretty face was cold. After taking a deep look at Su Yi, she finally admitted defeat. You should have done this earlier. Su Yi smiled gently, moved the long sword in front of Sure Susu, and threw it on the ground. With a ding sound, the long sword shattered inch by inch. Under the powerful infusion of Su Yi's power, it finally became a pile of scrap metal. I won't let you off. Sure Susu clenched her teeth and finally said to Su Yi. Then she turned around and stepped off the 10th level of the Nirvana Dragon platform. Wherever she passed, the energy of the Nirvana Dragon platform changed and followed Sure Susu like a shadow, leaving her with no way back. Qin Yuxing, Jing Qiran, Chao Yunfei, and Fu Dongxian all fell into deep thought as they watched this scene. It could be said that Sure Susu's behavior was very strange. According to the style of the people of the Chaos region, Sure Susu should have agreed to attack together and cut Su Yi into pieces. The four of them couldn't figure it out, but they instinctively felt that the matter between Sure Susu and Su Yi wasn't so simple. However, Su Yi didn't care about this. As long as Sure Susu admitted defeat and stopped bothering him, he would be fine. Sure Susu's admitted defeat. Under the Nirvana Dragon platform, many people in 9 Stars City. While they felt pity for Sure Susu, they were also furious at Su Yi's blasphemy towards their goddess. I wonder if Qin Yuxing and the others will continue to fight? Even Sure Susu was defeated by Su Yi, the rest of them are probably not his match. In the end, Su Yi will most likely obtain the 10th level of the Nirvana Dragon platform. Everyone could see that Su Yi's strength was far beyond the strongest few heavens prides in the Chaos region. Sure Susu, the strongest person of the younger generation in the Blue Cloud Hall, could roughly represent the strongest among her generation in the 3 first-rate forces. If this continued step by step, Su Yi would have the last laugh. I guess Qin Yuxing, Jing Qiran, and the others wouldn't want to see such a thing happen. Someone in the crowd murmured. Just as these people expected, they soon saw Fu Dongxian and Chao Yunfei no longer fighting each other. Instead, they surrounded Su Yi at the same time. Are they going to outnumber me? Su Yi raised his eyebrows and said with a chuckle. Boy, step down from the 10th level yourself, or we'll send you down. Chao Yunfei's black robe fluttered in the wind, making him look incomparably elegant. He looked indifferently at Su Yi and said. Su Yi's expression remained unchanged as he said indifferently, I'll return the same words to all of you. Are you going to step down yourselves, or do you want me to send you down? As Su Yi spoke, not only did he look at Chao Yunfei and Fu Dongxian, but he even looked at Qin Yuxing and Jing Qiran, who had yet to make a move. His provocation was very obvious. How arrogant! Fu Dongxian shouted coldly. Su Yi was still indifferent as he said lightly, If you're not convinced, all 4 of you can come at me together. Su Yi, aren't you a little too confident? When they heard Su Yi's words, even Jing Qiran, who hadn't spoken since the beginning, couldn't help but speak. His handsome face twitched as he spoke in a deep voice. Qin Yuxing frowned tightly as well. He also felt that Su Yi was too arrogant. What kind of strength did he possess to challenge all four of them at the same time? Su Yi was strong, but his cultivation seemed to be only at the second level of the origin void stage. Did he really have the ability to fight all four of them at once? You talk too much nonsense. If you want to fight, then let's fight. Are all of you going to take turns or come at me together? Su Yi flicked his sleeve, and the aura on his body surged out and flickered brightly. He naturally knew what these four people were thinking. It could be said that they represented the face of the three first-rate powers in the Chaos region. Now that he'd become an absolute threat to them, they would surely have no chance to take down the 10th level of the Nirvana Dragon Arena if they didn't join forces. Qin Yuxing and Jing Qiran hadn't spoken since the beginning, but their thoughts were surely similar to Chao Yunfei and Fu Dongxian. They wouldn't hesitate in the slightest when they had to join forces. Since it's like that, then let's meet him together. Qin Yuxing finally spoke. He took a step towards Su Yi, and the aura on his body surged, causing the energy on the Nirvana Dragon Arena to surge like a monstrous wave. Jing Qiran didn't speak any further. His handsome brows were cold as he faced Su Yi, and then he formed a fan shape with the other three and faced the young man from the Bawang sect. Qin Yuxing, Jing Qiran, and the others have really joined forces to deal with Su Yi at the same time. If they don't do that, then the highest level of the Nirvana Dragon Arena will fall into the hands of someone other than the three first-rate powers. This seems to have never happened in the Chaos region for so many years, right? The spectating crowd erupted into discussions. They knew very well in their hearts that if the highest level of the Nirvana Dragon Arena fell into the hands of the unknown Bawang sect, then the Azure Cloud Hall, 9-Star Valley, and Blood Sun sect would surely lose all face. Thus, Qin Yuxing, Jing Qiran, and the others would surely not allow such an outcome to occur, and besieging Su Yi was a matter of course. Even if they didn't say it out loud, everyone knew it in their hearts. As long as they could drive Su Yi down from there, it didn't matter what method they used, because this was the Chaos region, and there were no rules to speak of. Fight! Fu Dongxian was the first to roar. His primordial qi surged violently, turning into a blood-red sun-like light ball that rose slowly in front of him. Strong winds howled, and the energy of the Nirvana Dragon Arena was repelled away, then it brazenly collided with Su Yi. Inverted Galaxy. Chapter 1091. With a wave of his arm, pieces of starlight appeared and fell from the sky, converging into a huge river, like a waterfall, sweeping towards Su Yi's head. That's all you got? Su Yi chuckled, unmoved by the attacks of the two. He took out a large saber and held it in his hand, shouting in his heart, "Wild Dragon Overlord slash!" The saber slashed out fiercely, and a scarlet light erupted like a volcano. In an instant, a saber light shot out like a long red thunderbolt, accompanied by a vast and incomparably fierce and domineering aura. Roar! There seemed to be a faint shadow of a scarlet dragon in the saber light, shaking the void. Both Fu Dongxian and Chao Yunfei's eyes twitched fiercely at this moment. The scorching aura of the saber shocked them, but there was no way out now. They gritted their teeth and attacked from the left and right. The huge blood sun roulette and the dazzling Milky Way collided fiercely with Su Yi's saber. Swish! The saber light was like a dragon, overbearing beyond compare. Wherever the saber light passed, the blood sun shattered, the Milky Way was destroyed, and the Nirvana Dragon Arena trembled. Fu Dongxian and Chao Yunfei groaned at the same time, and their figures retreated rapidly. Slash! Su Yi's saber aura broke through the obstruction, and the remaining power did not diminish. He continued to attack, wanting to defeat the two. However, at this moment, another resplendent river of stars rolled over. Amidst the ripples of starlight, the Nirvana Dragon platform suddenly became dark and no longer had any light. It was as if this river of stars was the only thing left in the world. The vast aura rolled and swept across, destroying the heaven and earth. It directly blocked Su Yi's saber light. Jing Qiran made a timely move. He used the 9 Stars Valley's ultimate technique, which was much stronger than Chao Yunfei's. Swish, 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 when the two collided, a ferocious force burst forth, and a loud bang was heard. Jing Qiran was violently shaken and retreated, and a groan came from his throat. Su Yi, on the other hand, was not affected at all, and his figure did not move at all. With one strike, the victor was decided. Fu Dongxian and Chao Yunfei still had lingering fears. If it weren't for Jing Qiran blocking the last strike for them, they would have been seriously injured at the same time. Strong indeed, Jing Qiran said to Su Yi with a deep gaze. Stormy waves were set off in his heart. He had to admit that Su Yi was really strong. After Fu Dongxian consumed the saber light, only a part of its power was left. Even so, he was still greatly shocked. Then let's attack together. Qin Yusheng took a step forward. Golden light radiated from his entire body. He was like the sharpest weapon in the world, peerlessly sharp and capable of piercing through everything. Under the influence of this aura, the power of the Nirvana Dragon platform was cut apart and turned into fragments. Metal elemental energy wrapped around his fist, and a pure gold color flickered. With a light wave, wind and thunder filled the sky, and clanging sounds could be heard. Tyrant Dragon Mountain Quake Fist. These words came out of Qin Yusheng's mouth, accompanied by a terrifying golden light that soared into the sky. A fist blasted toward Su Yi. The space shook violently. The fist shadow seemed to have turned into the shape of a dragon. A faint dragon roar reverberated, causing people's hearts to tremble. Not bad martial skill. Su Yi narrowed his eyes and murmured. Qin Yusheng's methods caused Su Yi to be slightly moved. The grade of this Tyrant Dragon Mountain Quake Fist was definitely not low. It was extraordinary even among the royal grade martial skills. The fist shadow swept across the sky with an earth-shattering momentum. It was as if hundreds of thousands of mountains were collapsing. Attack! The moment Qin Yusheng attacked, Jing Qiran, Chao Yunfei, and Fu Dongxian also moved at the same time. They had already seen Su Yi's strength and didn't want to delay any longer. They planned to fight with all their strength. In an instant, 2 resplendent starry ribbons hung in the sky, brazenly attacking. In the middle, the blood sun wheel revolved, emitting a domineering pressure. The 3 of them complemented each other with Qin Yusheng's fist shadow. For a time, the 10th level of the Nirvana Dragon arena shook. The energy above was fiercely pushed out, causing a violent wave to strike the sky. What a terrifying attack! Will Su Yi be able to withstand such a joint attack? I'm afraid it's very difficult. No matter how strong Su Yi is, he's only at the 2nd level of the Origin Void stage. How could the 4 of them join forces? Below the Nirvana Dragon arena, countless gazes were focused on this scene in 9 Star City. The joint force of Qin Yusheng's group of 4 was too terrifying. Even the suppression of the Nirvana Dragon arena was about to be swept away. One could see the towering Jade Mountain trembling and swaying as it rumbled without end. It wasn't difficult to imagine what kind of pressure Su Yi, who was at the center of this wave of attacks, was enduring. Tyrant Dragon Whirlwind Slash. Su Yi didn't retreat or evade. He held the saber tightly in his hand as his origin energy surged in his meridians and gathered on the saber. The second move of the Mad Dragon's 3 blades, the Tyrant Dragon Whirlwind Slash, was directly slashed out. The saber radiance rotated, bringing with it a radiance that resembled an electric arc. It was like a crescent moon that streaked across the void, bringing with it a faint shadow of light. It was like a dragon shadow that flashed and disappeared, colliding with the combined attack of the 4. That terrifying pressure was fierce and violent, like a violent dragon dancing. Clang! Clang. When the saber light and the fist shadow collided, sparks flew and a violent gale spread out like a storm. The two galactic ribbons were also blasted away and fiercely retreated. Subsequently, the blood sun was directly slashed apart and was forcefully crushed into pieces by the Nirvana Dragon Arena's power. Su Yi's figure was continuously blasted back over 30 meters. The energy of the Nirvana Dragon Arena whistled around him, causing his hair to flutter wildly and his clothes to become taut. The situation of the four people on the opposite side was similar. They were all pushed back over 30 meters by this collision. Qin Yusheng and Jing Qiran were fine, but Chao Yunfei and Fu Dongxuan's faces turned pale after this. They were greatly shaken. Su Yi withstood it, and it was so easy. Everyone was stunned as they looked at the 10th level of the Nirvana Dragon Arena in disbelief. That young man from the Bawang sect didn't seem to be panting at all. He didn't seem to be at a disadvantage in front of the four Origin Void Realm experts. This subverted everyone's understanding. If this is all you have, then retreat as soon as possible. Su Yi's eyes turned cold as he slowly put away his saber. He closed his eyes and stood straight like a sharp sword that was slowly unsheathed. Its sharpness was getting stronger and stronger. A mysterious force gradually brewed in his body and enveloped him. It was as if he had transformed into a sharp sword that stood tall in the world. Buzz, buzz, buzz. A terrifying force gathered around him. The sword hummed and howled as its murderous aura shook the world. Chapter 1092. What a powerful sword intent! When this happened, Qin Yusheng and Jing Qiran's expressions changed instantly, and they looked at each other in horror. That terrifying murderous aura seemed to have materialized, cutting their bodies, causing them to feel pain on their skin. When the sword intent burst out, it caused their souls to tremble uncontrollably, and they wanted to prostrate themselves. I'm afraid he's much stronger than we imagined. Don't hold back anymore and fight with all your strength. Jing Qiran shouted loudly, and his figure soared into the sky. His feet stepped on the stars, and the Milky Way under his feet floated in the sky. Countless stars were clenched tightly in his hand, and he was like a god between heaven and earth, brazenly peerless and mighty. Then let's fight. The vitality in Qin Yusheng's body gushed out like a flood, crazily rushing out, and all of it gathered on his right arm. In the blink of an eye, the golden light on his arm was completely restrained, and it turned into a crystal-clear color, as if it was made of molten gold. When this punch was thrown, the void trembled, and the air rumbled. The Nirvana Dragon stage's vitality surged wildly, and the aura of gods and demons became violent. Jing Qiran and Qin Yusheng, one above and one below, formed a triangle and attacked Su Yi. In addition, Chao Yunfei and Fu Dongxian also moved at the same time, each with a terrifying and monstrous power, cooperating with Qin Yusheng and Jing Qiran. Everything happened very quickly. Su Yi's eyes were slightly closed, and a black sword appeared in his hand at an unknown time. Suddenly, there was a faint sound of wind and thunder on the sword, and a fierce aura was faintly discernible. Chi-chi, in the next moment, Su Yi's slightly closed eyes suddenly opened, and two rays of sword light swept out from the depths of his eyes. An extraordinary aura, accompanied by a great pressure, spread out from his body. Su Yi made his move, and he swung his sword. The sword light was dazzling, and with a sharp sound of wind breaking, it instantly collided fiercely with the attacks of several people in front of him. Chi-chi-chi-chi, the sword light was dazzling as it whistled through the air. The surging aura swept through the heavens and the earth, covering the earth. The momentum was vast and surging. Violent gales and sharp sword lights burst out, causing the void to tremble. The energy on the Nirvana Dragon Arena was greatly affected, as if the tide was receding. The swift and fierce sword light cut through the Milky Way and shattered the golden fist shadow. It spread directly to Qin Yusheng and Jing Qiran. Pfff. Under this power, Qin Yusheng and Jing Qiran were directly sent flying. Their figures shot backwards, and they both spat out scarlet blood from their mouths. Bang bang! Immediately after, there were two more muffled sounds. Fu Dongxian and Chao Yunfei were unable to resist Su Yi's sword light. They were sent flying and landed heavily on the Nirvana Dragon Arena, not far away. Along with the destruction of the energy that filled the sky, the power of the Nirvana Dragon stage flooded over like a flood. Monstrous waves crashed down on everyone's body. Pfff. Under the suppression of this terrifying power, the four of them spat out blood again. Their faces were as pale as paper. Sui won. It's too terrifying. He actually won and repelled the four of them at the same time. How can he be so strong? Even the weakest among the four of them is not much weaker than him. Below the Nirvana Dragon Arena, countless people in Nine Star City were horrified to the extreme. Under their gazes, the aura of the young man from the Bawang sect gradually receded, and he returned to his original appearance. Other than his pale face, there were no injuries. Such a scene caused intense discussions to erupt in the square. Phew, Su-Yi gently exhaled. Under the operation of the Origin Supreme technique, he resisted the power of the Nirvana Dragon Arena. In fact, only he knew that the power in his body had been greatly consumed. If it were not for the vastness of the great void divine ocean, an ordinary person would have used up all his power to display the mysterious sword essence. Therefore, he was not as relaxed as he looked. However, it was undeniable that Su-Yi still had the power to fight again. This kid is too incredible. In the stands of Nine Star City, Elder Xie of the Tsangyan Hall moved his lips slightly, and his eyes were as wide as copper bells. He clenched his fists tightly, as if something in his heart had been greatly shaken. It's a pity that he's not a disciple of the Nine Star Valley. Otherwise, he would be unrivaled in the entire Chaos region in a few decades. Elder Tang of the Nine Star Valley's eyes were sparkling, and his heart was surging with emotions. For so many years, at least 8 of the 10 levels of the Nirvana Dragon Arena have been occupied by our 3 forces. As for the top few levels, it's impossible for others to have a turn. This time, it seems that the previous pattern is going to be broken. Elder Bai of the Blood Sun sect had an ugly expression. It was not that he did not admire Su-Yi, but after seeing Su-Yi trying to kill Wu Jiyo, Elder Bai no longer viewed Su-Yi as a simple person. After hearing Elder Bai's words, Elder Xie and Elder Tang both fell into a short silence. They did not speak for a long time. What Elder Bai said was true. It seemed that the 3 first-rate forces of the Chaos region would not be able to protect the 10th level of the Nirvana Dragon Arena this time. To them, this was indeed something that was hard to accept. I'm afraid they won't fight again. Otherwise, it won't be good for them in the following battles. Elder Xie said softly. If they wasted too much energy on Su-Yi, Qin Yusheng and the others would be at a disadvantage in the following ranking battles. Therefore, Elder Xie felt that since Su-Yi was really unstoppable, they might as well give up on the 10th level. As for the 3 first-rate forces face, now that things had developed to this point, what face did they have left? Su-Yi, you're very strong. On the Nirvana Dragon Arena, Qin Yusheng stood up from the ground and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He looked at Su-Yi and said, I admit defeat. After saying that, Qin Yusheng turned around and walked down the 10th level of the Nirvana Dragon Arena. Qin Yusheng, Fu Dongxian, Chao Yunfei, and Jing Qiran were unwilling. They originally wanted to fight with Su-Yi again. However, now that Qin Yusheng had left, it was obvious that the 3 of them were no match for him. Let's go. Jing Qiran stared at Su-Yi for a long time and said in a deep voice. He then turned around and left. Fu Dongxian and Chao Yunfei clenched their teeth. Although they were unwilling, they also left in the end. Seeing all this, Su-Yi did not say anything. However, He could not help but look at Qin Yusheng's back a few more times. "He's a very open-minded person," Su Yi muttered. His impression of the eldest disciple of the Blue Cloud Hall improved a little. When the group walked down the 10th level of the Nirvana Dragon Arena, the entire 9-star city erupted in cheers. Chapter 1093. Su Yi won the final victory. He occupied the highest level of the Nirvana Dragon Arena. In the Battle of Prodigies, the one who reaches the top is the King of Prodigies. Su Yi shocked the world with a single brilliant feat. He surpassed his peers and suppressed all the powerhouses. Whether it was below the Nirvana Dragon Arena or in 9-star City, everyone was in an uproar. In fact, Su Yi and Qin Yusheng did not engage in a life-and-death battle. They merely exchanged a few moves. However, everyone could see that even if they used all their trump cards, it would still be difficult to suppress Su Yi. The final result was already decided. Su Yi fought against 4 and stood at the end. Brother Su Yi below the Nirvana Dragon Arena, the people from the Xianjian sect and the 6 Unity sect were stunned. In the beginning, Lin Donghao and the others thought that Su Yi had the strength to compete on the Nirvana Dragon Arena. However, it was only a competition. It was hard to say if he could even stand firmly on the first level. But what was hard to believe was that Su Yi had chased after Wu Jiao and then chased up to the Nirvana Dragon Arena. After Wu Jiao fled, Su Yi had actually ascended to the 10th level in one go. Shi Susu, the strongest person among the younger generation in the Blue Cloud Hall, was chased down by him. 2 second-level Origin Void Stage martial artists and 2 first-level Origin Void Stage martial artists joined forces, but they were still unable to shake Su Yi. This was too terrifying. Yuan Xuan, Ji Han Nua, and the others were extremely shocked and happy for him at the same time. This was especially true for Ji Han Nua. While her heart was shaken, her eyes were filled with endless brilliance, like little stars. This little thief on the 9th level of the Nirvana Dragon Arena, Shi Susu clenched her teeth hatefully. A sense of helplessness arose in her heart. She felt that if Su Yi continued to grow at such a speed, it would be hopeless for her to take revenge. Shi Susu was unwilling to rely on others, and she was even more unwilling to rely on the strength of the Blue Cloud Hall to deal with Su Yi. First of all, it was her own grudge. Apart from that, there was no way she could tell anyone what she had experienced. Su Yi couldn't hear these discussions at all. He adjusted his aura and gently sat down. While resisting the energy suppression of the Nirvana Dragon platform, he also began to regulate his breathing. At the same time, he continued to observe the situation on the Nirvana Dragon platform below. The competition for the first and second floors of the Nirvana Dragon platform was the fiercest. Apart from the Big Dipper sect, the strongest disciples of the other 6 second-rate forces were almost all gathered on these 2 floors. In addition to them, many disciples from the first-rate forces also joined in the fight. Therefore, the battle was extremely intense. Further up, there were also several figures standing on the 3rd and 4th floors. However, under the suppression of the Nirvana Dragon platform's power, these people were having a hard time resisting. What surprised Su Yi was that from the 5th floor all the way to the 8th floor, there was not a single person in sight. With just a little thought, he knew that the disciples of the first and second-rate forces were definitely aware of their own limitations. They were clearly aware that the 6th to 10th floors could only belong to Qin Yusheng, Jing Qiran, Shi Susu, and the others. Others could forget about getting a share of it. Qin Yusheng went directly to the 8th floor? Suddenly, Su Yi's eyes flickered. He saw Qin Yusheng walk straight past the 9th floor of the Nirvana Dragon platform and head to the 8th floor. On the 9th floor, Shi Susu didn't say anything about it. She seemed to think it was only right and proper. When Jing Qiran, Chao Yunfei, and Fu Dongxian passed by the 9th floor, they hesitated for a moment before continuing down. They actually didn't want to fight Shirsusu. It seems that in their hearts, that crazy woman is really strong. Sui muttered to himself indifferently. In fact, what he didn't know was that it wasn't that Jingqiran and the others didn't want to challenge Shirsusu. It was because they had all suffered serious injuries after fighting with him just now. Shirsusu was the first to fight with Sui. Although she was quickly defeated due to her carelessness, she wasn't injured. Under such circumstances, if Jingqiran and the others challenged Shirsusu, it would be tantamount to looking for a beating. They might as well give up on this floor. The 9th floor of the Nirvana Dragon platform belongs to Shirsusu. Soon, the owners of the top 2 floors of the Nirvana Dragon platform were revealed. They belonged to Sui and Shirsusu respectively. On the 8th floor, Qin Yuxing and Jingqiran began to confront each other. After walking down 2 floors of the Nirvana Dragon platform, the suppression they faced was greatly reduced. Thus, their bodies surged with even more terrifying power than before. They began to fight each other. Why don't we directly determine our rankings here? Fu Dongxuan's eyes flickered as he looked at Chow Yunfei while the two of them were fighting fiercely. That's a good suggestion, Chow Yunfei replied coldly. Then, he brandished the starry river and attacked madly. A terrifying power shook the 8th floor of the Nirvana Dragon platform, weakening the suppression. The scene was much more intense than the previous battle with Sui. Jingqiran is very strong. He's evenly matched with Qin Yuxing. The two of them are fighting fiercely. Under everyone's gaze, the battle between Qin Yuxing and Jingqiran was particularly fierce. Vast auras surged wildly and shook the heavens and earth. Even the Nirvana Dragon platform was trembling. On the contrary, it didn't take long for Chao Tsufei and Fu Dongxian to determine the victor. Fu Dongxuan's bloody palm struck Chow Yunfei's chest. At the same time, his shoulder was swept by Chow Yunfei's light. Both of them were seriously injured. But relatively speaking, Fu Dongxian had it much easier than Chow Yunfei. He had the advantage of half a move and won. The 6th floor is mine. Fu Dongxian stared at Chow Yunfei and said. Finally, he glanced at Qin Yuxing and Jingqiran, who were still fighting fiercely. His heart couldn't help but tremble when he felt such a vast power. Obviously, no matter who won in the end, he, Fu Dongxian, would not be a match for them. The 7th and 8th floors of the Nirvana Dragon platform would not belong to them. If it weren't for the battle with Sui, we wouldn't have been injured to this extent. We could have still competed. Chow Yunfei sighed in his heart. If it weren't for Sui, they would not have been injured so early. On the other hand, Shirsusu, Qin Yuxing, Jingqiran, and the others would surely carry out an intense competition. Once these people were heavily injured, then to him and Fu Dongxian, these 2 first-level Origin Void stage martial artists, they would have an opportunity. Under such circumstances, perhaps they would have a chance to win the 7th and 8th floors of the Nirvana Dragon platform. But now, this assumption was no longer valid. Whoosh, not long after, Qin Yuxing finally defeated Jingqiran and occupied the 8th floor of the Nirvana Dragon platform. Chow Yunfei watched for a while and went straight down. According to his ranking, he could only set foot on the 5th floor. Are they going to be separated soon? Sui looked down and saw that the battles on each floor of the Nirvana Dragon platform had begun to calm down. On the contrary, the lower the floors, the more intense the competition was. Shang Wangchen and Shui Yuchan, these two are not simple. Sui looked down and saw that the 3rd and 2nd floors were occupied by Boundless Palaces, Shang Wangchen and Purple Shadow Towers, Shui Yuchan respectively. On the 1st and 4th floors, there were 2 disciples from Blue Cloud Palace and 9 Star Valley respectively who had reached the end. That's great. In 9 Star City, the people from Boundless Palace and Purple Shadow Tower were excited. Their disciples had not been able to occupy a floor of the Nirvana Dragon platform for many consecutive alliance meetings. Now that Shang Wanchen and Shui Yuchan had done it, the older generation experts from the two sects were wild with joy. The benefits of being able to occupy a spot on the Nirvana Dragon platform were unimaginable. It would also bring glory to the sects behind them. The 7th, 5th, and 4th floors, a total of 3 floors of the Nirvana Dragon platform. This result is acceptable. In 9-Star City, 9-Star Valley's Elder Tang nodded lightly and said, out of the 10 floors of the Nirvana Dragon platform, the disciples from 9-Star Valley had occupied 3 floors. Although their ranking was not very high, it was not low and was acceptable. I have to congratulate Elder Xie. The disciples of your Blue Cloud Palace are each stronger than the other. Elder Tang turned his head and looked enviously at Elder Xie of the Blue Cloud Hall. Blue Cloud Palace had also occupied 3 floors of the Nirvana Dragon platform. However, they were on the 1st, 8th, and 9th floors respectively. Their ranking was very high and was much higher than 9-Star Valley's. Shi Susu, Qin Yuxing, and the others are indeed good. However, compared to Sui, they are still lacking by a lot. Elder Xie first nodded, then shook his head and sighed. Listening to the conversation between Elder Xie and Elder Tang, Elder Bai of the Blood Sun sect, who was sitting at the side, had a dark face. Out of the 10 floors of the Nirvana Dragon platform, only Fu Dongxian had occupied the 6th floor of the Blood Sun sect. This result was really beyond the expectations of everyone in the Blood Sun sect. If it wasn't for Sui, Wu Jiuyo would have occupied at least 1 floor. If it wasn't for him stirring up trouble, things wouldn't have turned out this way. Elder Bai thought bitterly in his heart. It was only at this moment that he realized that he had developed an extreme hatred for Sui. He did not know when it had started. Because of Sui, Wu Jiuyo was severely injured and was chased out of the Nirvana Dragon platform. Otherwise, with his cultivation base at the 2nd level Origin Void stage, he had absolute confidence in occupying the top few floors. If that was the case, the Blood Sun sect would not be in such an awkward situation now. A dignified first-rate force actually only had 1 disciple who had successfully ascended the Nirvana Dragon platform. This seemed to be a situation that only extremely powerful second-rate forces would have, right? The competition for the Nirvana Dragon platform has ended. Next, it's time for them to reap the benefits. We don't have to stay in 9-Star City anymore. Let's wait outside the secret realm. In the crowd below, Merciless West said to Green Emperor, Yin Yang Underworld Emperor, and the others beside her. Let's wait for boss to come out. Su Xiaoshui said as he poked his head out from Merciless West's embrace. Let's go. Merciless West, Green Emperor, Yin Yang Underworld Emperor, Huang Jian, and the others did not waste any time. They immediately turned around and headed out of the city. Let's go too. Ji Tianfu from the Xianjian sect, Elder Feng Qizong from the 6 Unity sect, and the others quickly followed and headed out of the secret realm. Chapter 1094. With the end of the Nirvana Dragon platform, the Alliance Conference was also coming to an end. Countless people in 9-Star City were still watching. They wanted to see what kind of benefits the top 10 Supreme Talents would obtain from the Nirvana Dragon platform. However, some sharp-witted people began to notice that some of the elders from the 3 first-rate forces, 7 second-rate forces, and 10 third-rate forces that had obtained the right to enter the secret realm of ominous spirits began to head towards the secret realm of ominous spirits. There was an invisible undercurrent surging. The Big Dipper sect must have sent their top experts to surround Sui outside the secret realm. Young Master Hong Jianxiu was killed by that young man. The Big Dipper sect's Master Hong Qianlong will not let him off. Not only the Big Dipper sect, but also the 9-Star Valley. After all, Sui tried to kill Wu Jiuyo. Some forces and itinerant cultivators could not help but discuss this in private when they noticed this. In addition to welcoming their disciples, some of the major forces also had to deal with other matters. Although they had agreed before entering the secret realm of ominous spirits that once they entered, their lives would be determined by themselves. However, the Big Dipper sect would definitely ignore such a statement. They would definitely make a move on Su-yi to avenge Hong Jianxiu's death. This was the chaos territory. As long as it exceeded the bottom line that the major forces could accept, they would not care about the rules. Everything depended on strength. There must be a big show coming up. Let's go and take a look. Secretly, countless people began to walk out of Nine-Star City and head towards the secret realm of ominous spirit. Su-yi was the king of heaven's favorites in this year's Alliance Conference. He appeared out of nowhere and dominated his generation. He was invincible among his peers. No one knew what kind of fate such a young man would face after he walked out of the secret realm of ominous spirit. This piqued everyone's curiosity. As for what kind of benefits they would obtain from the Nirvana Dragon platform, no one cared about that. On the Nirvana Dragon platform, every level was occupied. There were a total of 10 levels, which represented the top 10 supreme talents of this generation. Next, I will be able to obtain benefit, Su-yi muttered softly. According to the procedure, he would definitely be able to obtain benefits from the Nirvana Dragon platform. However, Su-yi wasn't particularly enthusiastic about it. He found it hard to imagine how much the benefits would bring him. After all, he had many extraordinary treasures in his possession. No matter how great the benefits of the Nirvana Dragon Arena were, it couldn't compare to the mysterious space and spirit liquid. Therefore, Su-yi felt that he might be able to obtain some benefits, but he wasn't particularly looking forward to it. There are still 10 spots left. I can't waste them. Suddenly, Su-yi's heart stirred. He felt a mysterious force awakening on the Nirvana Dragon platform and resonating with him to a certain extent. Su-yi communicated with his mind, and in a split second, a thick beam of light shot out from the 10th floor of the Nirvana Dragon platform and swept down like a lamp, creating a spot of light on the ground. After this scene appeared, beams of light also appeared on the other Nirvana Dragon platforms below, but relatively speaking, each layer was thinner than the previous one, and the area of the light spots was also getting smaller and smaller. Su-yi pondered for a moment and knew what the light beam was for. He smiled slightly and controlled the light beam to move, landing directly in front of the people from Xianjian's sect and Liuhe sect. Miss Hanhua, Chen Chuan, Shun Hong, and Yi Haokong, the 4 of you come up first. There are still 6 spots left. Xianjian's sect and Liuhe sect can each take 3 spots. You can decide who you want, Su-yi said, his voice coming out from the light beam. Hearing this, Ji Hanhua, Chen Chuan, Shun Hong, Yi Haokong, Lin Bingyao, Lin Donghao, and Yu Wenxuan were overjoyed. For them, this was simply a benefit that fell from the sky. Thank you, Brother Su-yi. Yu Wenxuan and Lin Donghao were extremely excited and immediately thanked him. They didn't dawdle and quickly chose 3 people from their respective sections. They followed Ji Hanhua and the others and stepped into the range of the light beam. In an instant, the entire light beam began to shrink. The group of 10 people rose into the air and finally landed on the 2nd level of the Nirvana Dragon platform. After they stepped on the platform, Su-yi could clearly feel that the rules of the Nirvana Dragon platform had changed a little. The terrifying surging energy seemed to have different suppressive forces according to the cultivation of the 10 people. Otherwise, Ji Hanhua, Chen Chuan, and the others wouldn't have been able to stand on the 10th level of the Nirvana Dragon platform. It's really hard to imagine that people from third-rate forces like us would have the opportunity to step on the Nirvana Dragon platform. A disciple from Xianjian's sect blushed and was extremely excited. The others beside him also nodded to show their agreement. This was not an ordinary benefit. As disciples of the Chaos Territory, they had all heard of the power of the Nirvana Dragon platform. For these 10 Yuan Zhen realm cultivators, Even if they only got 1% of the benefits from Su-yi, it was enough to make them happy. Swish, swish, swish. In just a moment, Su-yi saw that the light beams from the 9 Nirvana Dragon platforms below had all been retracted. There were some figures in each light beam. From top to bottom, there were 9 people, 8 people, 7 people, and there was only one person on the lowest level. These were the disciples of the major forces, and the quota had been arranged long ago. Only the group from the Blood Sun sect had ugly expressions on their faces. Such a large first-rate force only had a total of 5 disciples who could go up and reap the benefit. Even the third-rate force, Xianjian sect, was almost the same in this regard. This matter was bound to make Blood Sun sect a laughingstock for many people. Rumble, right at this moment, a terrifying rumble resounded, and the entire Nirvana Dragon stage shook violently as if it was being grabbed by an invisible hand. Walala! In an instant, a strange phenomenon appeared. Under the towering Nirvana Dragon platform, a fire dragon leaped out of thin air. With its head raised and tail wagging, it charged straight up with a terrifying force, burning all the way up. Chi-chi, after that, countless layers of clouds converged in the sky while lightning flickered within them. A bolt of lightning that was thicker than a mountain fiercely struck down and smashed fiercely onto the Nirvana Dragon arena. Buzz, buzz, the sound of metal rang out as sharp energy shot out in all directions. Heaven and earth shook as if they were about to be destroyed. In just a short moment, the energy of the 7 elements, metal, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, and lightning, seemed to have been revived. It swept across the sky and the ground, completely engulfing the Nirvana Dragon platform. The domineering destructive aura spread out and enveloped the entire Nirvana Dragon platform. From the outside, no one could see the figures inside clearly. It has begun. They are going to reap the benefits. Below the Nirvana Dragon platform, countless people's eyes flickered as they murmured with endless envy. The strange phenomenon of the Nirvana Dragon platform would bring unimaginable benefits, and the top 10 geniuses would bear the brunt of it. The disciples of the various sects who were brought in later would also reap great benefit. This was something that people couldn't help but be envious of. Chi-chi on the Nirvana Dragon platform, everyone sat down cross-legged with their eyes closed, waiting for the mysterious energy on the platform to be instilled into their bodies. On the 10th level, Su-yi also sat down and was ready to be cleansed by the energy of the Nirvana Dragon platform. It was said that there would be an incomparably magnificent mysterious energy that would be directly poured into the body, baptizing and strengthening the martial artists on the platform. In particular, the top 10 geniuses would receive more than 90% of the energy, while the rest would share less than 10% of the benefit. After such an opportunity, some people's physical bodies would even undergo a metamorphosis, becoming incomparably solid and much stronger than before. Not only that, but the dantian and sea of qi in their body would also become more and more majestic. So that's how it is. After ascending to the 10th level of the Nirvana Dragon platform, Yuan told Su-yi about it under his inquiry. However, Su-yi felt even more dispirited after hearing it. Whether it was his physical body, soul, dantian, or sea of qi, all of them had reached a peak state. In the process of cultivating the mixed Yuan demon body, all of these had been raised to a level that ordinary people could never reach. Therefore, after hearing the effects of the Nirvana Dragon platform from Yuan, Su-yi suddenly felt a little melancholy and even a little disappointed. He didn't think that the Nirvana Dragon platform would bring him any benefits at all. At most, it would slightly temper his physical body and dantian and sea of qi, but it wouldn't bring about a huge improvement. Yuan, Lin Donghao, Lin Bingyao, Chen Chuan, and the others were all extremely excited. Naturally, they didn't notice Su-yi's helpless expression. Only Ji Hanhua frowned slightly. She wanted to ask something, but a fierce force on the Nirvana Dragon platform directly rushed over and interrupted her words. "It's starting." Su Yi's eyes moved. Like the others, he closed his eyes, but he didn't have any sense of anticipation. In his senses, the terrifying force outside his body was like a wave crashing over. Su Yi only felt that his entire body was wrapped in a fierce torrent. He slowly circulated the Yuan Qi in his body, and the four elemental energies of earth, fire, water, and wind began to surge. Under this, the energy surging from the Nirvana Dragon platform was drawn and immediately turned into the purest energy, entering Su Yi's body. This Nirvana Dragon platform is really magical. Su Yi was extremely surprised. After the energy of the Nirvana Dragon platform entered his body, it automatically evolved into the four elemental energies of earth, fire, water, and wind, which he could mobilize. It seemed that as long as he was in here, he could obtain the corresponding elemental energies by circulating his Yuan Qi. "It's really majestic and magnificent," Sui muttered to himself. This energy was indeed powerful. If it was an ordinary person, it would definitely have a great effect on tempering their physical body. Chapter 1095. Su Yi began to absorb the surrounding energy into his body in an attempt to temper his body and cleanse his Dantian's sea of qi. However, the reality was just as he thought. No matter how pure the energy of the Nirvana Dragon platform was, it was not of much use to him. Perhaps with the help of this vast energy, he could directly attempt to break through to a higher level. However, if he did that, his foundation would be unstable, which was not the result Su Yi wanted. "I should cultivate the primordial yang sky bone. With the help of the Nirvana Dragon platform, the speed will definitely be much faster than usual." Suddenly, Su Yi's eyes lit up as he thought of this matter. He had been cultivating the primordial yang sky bone for a long time, but the progress was very slow. Even now, the ribs in his chest had not been completely tempered. The cultivation of the primordial yang sky bone was not like the first four layers of the origin demon body. One needed to find the right opportunity or accumulate it to a certain extent before erupting. The primordial yang sky bone needed to be refined bit by bit until the entire body transformed into the primordial yang sky bone. With Su Yi's previous speed, even if he cultivated nonstop every day, it would take him 1 or 2 years to completely complete it. However, during this period, he could not do nothing and cultivate the primordial yang sky bone wholeheartedly. That was not realistic at all. Therefore, feeling the incomparably vigorous energy of the Nirvana Dragon platform, Su Yi felt that although he could not continue to temper his body and sea of qi, it was still possible to cultivate the primordial yang sky bone here. As soon as he thought of this, the Yuan Qi in Su Yi's body suddenly paused. The power of the three attributes of earth, water, and wind instantly converged. Only the power of fire was still circulating incessantly. In the blink of an eye, a scorching qi rushed into Su Yi's body and rampaged through his meridians, flesh and blood. There was no need to think at all. This scorching qi was directly transferred to the heavenly sun core and began to rapidly condense and transform into true yang fire, burning fiercely. Su Yi's body directly gushed out waves of heat. His body turned scarlet red like a piece of hot iron that was being burned from the inside out. What a dense fire attribute energy! Su Yi couldn't help but be overjoyed. This fire attribute power was too vigorous, beyond his imagination. When these flames entered the heavenly sun core, they transformed into true yang fire. Under Su Yi's control, they began to converge towards his ribs. Chi, in the blink of an eye, one of the ribs turned completely red and emitted a blazing light. It was being refined. The entire rib was gradually burned through, from the outside to the inside. With the rapid passage of time, it began to become as clear as a piece of crimson jade. This transformation speed was much faster than Su Yi's self-tempering in the past. Great! Su Yi, who was quietly tempering the primordial yang heavenly bone, almost cried out in surprise. This was simply a pleasant surprise. In the past, Su Yi had to rely on the spiritual qi of heaven and earth to transform it into yuan qi in the great void spirit sea. Then, the yuan qi would enter the heavenly sun core and transform into true yang fire to temper the primordial yang heavenly bone. Sometimes, after condensing for half a day, only a small amount of true yang fire could be produced. After exhausting all of the yuan qi in the great void spirit sea, only less than half of the bone could be tempered. Perhaps this effect would be greatly enhanced when Su Yi swallowed the mysterious spatial spiritual liquid. However, refining the primordial yang heavenly bone was a very slow process. Su Yi simply couldn't bear such a huge consumption, and the spatial spiritual liquid couldn't be squandered like that. But now, he only needed to circulate the fire attribute energy. When the energy of the Nirvana Dragon platform entered his body, it would immediately transform into fire attribute energy. Through the heavenly sun core, the refining speed was many times faster. From the beginning of the absorption of energy to the end of the transformation into true yang fire, the process was greatly compressed and the time was greatly reduced. The overall speed was dozens of times faster than before. I didn't expect that the energy of the Nirvana Dragon platform could be used in this way. Let's see how many bones I can refine before the end. Su Yi calculated in his heart. He directly let go of his arms and legs. The fire attribute yuan qi in his body frantically circulated, allowing the energy of the Nirvana Dragon platform to pour into his body like a tide. His body was like a whale sucking in water, greedily and arrogantly devouring the terrifying energy around him. Chi. Su Yi's body was undergoing a transformation. His body, which was sitting cross-legged, seemed to be burning fiercely. Waves of fire attribute energy continuously flowed through his meridians and rushed into his heavenly sun core. They were quickly transformed into true yang fire, and then transferred to his bones. Zzz. The water on Su Yi's body quickly evaporated, and even the mist couldn't remain. Scorching heat filled his surroundings. Fortunately, the powerful energy of the Nirvana Dragon platform was constantly pouring in to form a barrier. Otherwise, such high temperature would definitely affect Ji Hanua, Chen Chu, and the others. One rib bone has been completely refined. In just an incense stick's worth of time, one rib bone was completely refined and transformed into a primordial yang heavenly bone. It was like a sparkling and translucent red jade, releasing bright energy. Such a rapid transformation made Su Yi want to jump up. This was too terrifying. In the past, it was difficult to refine a rib bone in one day and one night. But now, it was completed in an incense stick's worth of time. According to this efficiency, Su Yi felt that he could complete the refinement of the primordial yang heavenly bone in a few days. But it's still a little unbearable. Su Yi smacked his lips. The refinement of the primordial yang heavenly bone had sped up, but the terrifying true yang fire was frequently produced in his body, causing him to feel a sharp pain. It was as if his body was being burned by the heavenly fire. It could be imagined that in the past, when he had to rely on his yuan qi to slowly condense the true yang fire, he would feel some pain. But now, the transformation of the true yang fire was many times faster. While it brought benefits, it also made Su Yi feel even more pressure. Continue to refine. Su Yi clenched his teeth and continued to absorb the power of the Nirvana Dragon platform. This was a rare opportunity. If he left this place, it would be too difficult to find such a vast amount of energy to transform. The spiritual liquid could probably do it, but the amount of spiritual liquid was really not much. Su Yi no longer thought about it. His lips trembled again, and his face twisted and twitched from time to time. Pain was written all over his face. This was an arduous process, but Sui resolutely carried on with determination. His strong willpower supported him as he constantly transformed the fire attribute energy into true yang fire. When the remaining rib bones in his chest were completely transformed, the true yang fire flowed along his spine. One went up, the other went down, and the other went up. It began to refine his entire body at the same time. When the pain spread throughout his body, Sui was about to go numb. A terrifying whirlpool formed in his body, crazily devouring the energy of the Nirvana Dragon platform and drawing the energy of the other 9 levels to him. What's going on? Why do I feel that the energy of the Nirvana Dragon platform has weakened? On the first level of the Nirvana Dragon platform, a young man withdrew his aura and frowned. Senior brother, is it going to end soon? Next to the young man, a man who was less than 20 years old asked doubtfully. They were all disciples of the Blue Cloud Hall and had occupied the first level of the Nirvana Dragon platform to reap the benefit. However, at this time, they felt that the vigorous energy around them was weakening and becoming weaker. It was quite obvious. This made them very puzzled. They had just reaped the benefits not long ago, so how could there be such a change? It was really strange. It's definitely still early to end. According to past experience, we can only stay on the Nirvana Dragon platform for a few days at most, said the young man at the beginning. Then, he added, I don't know what's going on, but before the energy weakens too much, let's hurry up and refine our bodies and see if Qi. After saying that, he closed his eyes again and began to rapidly devour the energy. Not only this young man, but everyone, from Shui Yuechan on the 2nd level to Shi Susu on the 9th level, felt something strange. It was as if there was an invisible hand snatching the energy from them. This wasn't a good thing. Everyone didn't need to think too much about it. They all exerted their full strength and frantically pulled the energy of the Nirvana Dragon platform into their bodies. However, the pulling force was too strong. A group of young experts was barely able to maintain a balance. All of this was, of course, because of Sui. The condensation of the true yang fire required a huge amount of energy to be transformed into a single wisp. Therefore, Sui was plundering. He wanted to forcibly take all the energy from the other levels of the Nirvana Dragon platform and transfer it to himself. In a short time, this kind of plundering didn't cause too much of a change. However, as the primordial yang sky bones were refined one by one and the experts on the other levels continued to devour and refine, the energy was getting thinner and thinner. At the same time, the number of primordial yang sky bones in Suyi's body was increasing. After half a day, dozens of bones had completely transformed into primordial yang sky bones. What's going on? Why can't I feel any energy? After a day, the energy on the first level of the Nirvana Dragon platform was almost completely gone. It could only be said that the spirit Qi was slightly richer than the outside world. The 2 disciples of the Blue Cloud Hall stood on the platform and felt that they could easily resist the suppressive force of the Nirvana Dragon platform even without circulating the Yuan Qi in their bodies. This change was too great. The 2 of them found it hard to believe that such a result had occurred in just one day. However, when they looked up, they saw that the platform was still enveloped by the vigorous attribute energy. They couldn't see the situation of the others. Something's wrong. The Nirvana Dragon platform shouldn't be like this. On the 2nd and 3rd levels, Shui Yuechan and Wang Qin were also puzzled. They had already obtained a lot of benefits, but it was far from enough. However, they didn't expect the energy to be getting thinner and thinner. They didn't know what was going on. Chapter 1096. According to the situation of the previous Alliance Conference, the Nirvana Dragon Arena Master could continue for several days to continuously provide vigorous energy for the young experts to temper themselves. At the very least, it would take close to 3 days before it would end. When it was about to end, the vast energy began to recede from the lower levels. The first level to end was the second level, the third level, and so on and so forth. However, the current situation was a little too unusual. In just one day, the energy in the lower levels was almost exhausted. Not only that, even the 7th, 8th, and 9th levels above were greatly weakened, as if the energy was flowing too quickly. Swish swish Shirsusu, Qin Yusheng, and Jing Qiran opened their eyes almost at the same time on the third level of the Nirvana Dragon Arena, shooting out intense rays of light. They all keenly felt that there was something unusual about everything. Although they were standing on the 7th, 8th, and 9th levels, the energy was still very rich, but the change was too great compared to the beginning. How could this be? These people all frowned, feeling very puzzled. But no matter how they thought about it, they couldn't figure out the cause of this matter because no one could see the situation on the other levels. Realizing this situation, everyone was slightly puzzled, but no one dared to delay any longer. If the energy continued to weaken at this rate, it wouldn't be long before everything completely disappeared, and the transformation of the Nirvana Dragon Arena would also end. At that time, they might not be able to obtain any benefit. Instead of thinking too much about the puzzlement in their hearts, it was better to take advantage of this last moment to absorb more energy. With Shirsusu, Qin Yusheng, Jing Qiran, Fu Dongxian, and Chao Yunfei, the 5 Origin Void stage experts as the leaders, dozens of young disciples began to frantically absorb the energy on the Nirvana Dragon Arena. On the 10th level, Su Yi was still undergoing changes both inside and outside of his body. His body was like a bottomless pit, manifesting a huge vortex that devoured all the energy that could be devoured. Not far away, Ji Hanhua, Yuanshuan, Lin Bingyao, and the others weren't affected much. The energy on the 10th level of the Nirvana Dragon Arena was much richer than before. Swish, swish, Su Yi, Shirsusu, Qin Yusheng, and the others seemed to be engaged in a plundering battle. They were frantically plundering and absorbing as much energy as possible from the Nirvana Dragon platform. However, in comparison, Su Yi's devouring speed was much more terrifying than the others combined. Every strand of pure energy that entered Su Yi's body turned into true yang fire, which was then used to temper the primordial yang heavenly bone. Su Yi's entire body seemed to have turned into a soldering iron. Waves of heat were rolling, and the scorching heat was monstrous. The space seemed to have become somewhat distorted and blurry under this heat, making it difficult for people to see clearly. Huff huff huff, as time passed, the energy of the Nirvana Dragon platform became thinner and thinner, unable to maintain the demand of the other floors. By this time, Su Yi's refining speed had slowed down a lot because the energy was too thin. Over 100 bones have been tempered in just over a day. Su Yi slowly sobered up a little. The shock in his heart had already reached an extreme level. He opened his eyes, which were filled with disbelief. There were over 200 bones in the human body, and over 100 of them had been tempered in just over a day. In addition to the 20 or so ribs that had been tempered earlier, Su Yi now had over 150 primordial yang heavenly bones in his body. This number was extremely terrifying. If he had cultivated step by step, relying on the yuan qi in his body to transform again and again, it would have taken him at least a year to achieve this. But now, all of this had been completed in just over a day. Continue. It was now or never. Su Yi suppressed the excitement in his heart, growled, and continued to devour the energy outside his body. Huff 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 huff. This time, Su Yi began to take the initiative to devour, which instantly affected the entire Nirvana Dragon platform and made a buzzing sound. Shirsusu, Qin Yusheng, and the others on the other floors suddenly felt the energy around them disappear like flowing water, as if it had been snatched away by someone. How strange! Qin Yusheng, Jing Qiran, and the others frowned deeply. This was not a normal situation at all. According to their imagination, all the energy should slowly become thinner and thinner when it was about to end, not suddenly disappear. This made them feel that something was very wrong, but they could not figure out what the problem was. Not long after, even on the 7th, 8th, and 9th floors of the Nirvana Dragon platform, there was very little energy left. For the experts, it was no longer of much use. Chi-Chi, however, at this time, Su-Yi's body was still undergoing changes. Relying on the brutal snatching, he finally tempered a few more primordial yang heavenly bones, which made the energy on the 10th floor of the Nirvana Dragon platform unable to sustain his consumption. Is it over? At this time, Ji Hanua, Yuan-Xuan, Lin Donghao, Chen Chu, and the others slowly opened their eyes. Almost 2 days of hard work had allowed them to reap great benefit. They did not experience the ups and downs of energy like the other people on the 9th floor. Instead, it was the end of Su-Yi's tempering. It was just that they did not know all of this. Brother Su-Yi, right at this moment, Yuan-Xuan opened his eyes and stared at the back of the young man who was not far away from him. There, Su-Yi's body was still emitting a scorching light. His whole person was like a burnt iron, looking extremely terrifying. Brother Su-Yi's aura is so terrifying, Chen Chu murmured, looking as if he was in a daze. Su-Yi's body emitted a terrifying energy that spread out in an invisible manner. It was overbearing and awe-inspiring. At this moment, the figure that sat cross-legged was like a supreme living being, and it caused others to unconsciously feel reverence towards him. Rumble, suddenly, Su-Yi's aura shook, and a powerful roar was heard. Along with it, the entire Nirvana Dragon platform trembled and shook. Whoosh, others were unable to see it, but Ji Hanua, Yuan-Xuan, and the others clearly saw that a boundlessly ferocious aura suddenly soared out from Su-Yi's body, and it seemed as if an ancient savage beast had awakened and opened its brilliant eyes to stare at the world. An invisible wave of chi spread out, accompanied by gusts of wind and thunder. The power of a fiend god was mighty and peerless. What a strong demonic aura! How can the demonic aura on his body be so strong? Lin Bingyao's beautiful eyes rippled. She and the others quickly retreated and hid in a corner of the Nirvana Dragon platform, afraid of being too close to Su-Yi. Some cultivators of the present age could borrow the power of the demonic beasts to cultivate. They could even seize the innate abilities of some powerful demonic beasts and turn them into their own abilities. Therefore, it was not strange for Su-Yi's demonic aura to appear. But the strange thing was that this demonic aura was too vast and vigorous. It was demonic but not evil, overbearing and boundless. It was as if Su-Yi was a tyrannical demonic beast and not a human. Buzz, under the horrified gazes of the 10 people, Su-Yi's body suddenly burst out with boundless light. The power of the 4 attributes of earth, fire, water, and wind rushed out from his body and boiled in the void. His body became ethereal and misty under the contrast of these power rays, invisibly plated with a layer of mysterious color. What Ji Hanua and the others could not see was that the changes in Su-Yi's body were even greater than what they could see from the outside. In fact, when Su-Yi stopped refining the Yuanyang heavenly bone, more than 100 bones in his body gushed out a fierce and boundless mystic power. This sort of mysterious energy was born from his bones, and it was like a ball of fire that was burning fiercely. It mixed into his blood and flowed through his entire body, causing all the flesh, blood, meridians, and internal organs in his entire body to produce an extremely strong and powerful energy. This power stimulated Su-Yi's body, causing his diamond body to become more condensed and the heavenly origin demon soul to throb. The terrifying power poured into the heavenly sun heart, causing it to beat fiercely. It was as if it had transformed into a heavy hammer that valiantly and powerfully struck Su-Yi's chest. In addition, monstrous waves were set off in Su-Yi's great void divine sea. The origin energy that was like the sea was rolling endlessly, creating tens of thousands of waves. Under such circumstances, Su Yi's aura was constantly rising and becoming more and more vigorous. It was as vast as the sea and as vast as the abyss. In an instant, the barrier of the third level of the origin void stage was broken through easily. The overbearing and absolute aura was awe-inspiring, causing one's scalp to go numb. However, all of this was not over yet. All of the changes were still ongoing. Almost every moment, Su Yi's aura would undergo a huge surge. Third level of the origin void stage, fourth level of the origin void stage. In a short period of time, Su Yi's aura had directly broken through the fourth level of the origin void stage. His overall aura was no less than 10 times stronger. It was also at this moment that his aura seemed to have risen to the peak. It was not easy to step into a higher realm. Fifth level of the origin void stage, break for me. Suddenly, Su Yi shouted in his heart. Following this soundless shout, the heavenly sun heart rumbled like a sudden clap of thunder, causing heaven and earth to tremble. Halala, in the great void divine sea, endless origin energy seawater rose and reached up to the 9 heavens. The wind and waves surged with a majestic momentum that was extremely shocking. The vigorous energy crazily washed Su Yi's meridians and flesh. The origin yang heavenly bone emitted a dazzling light as mysterious energy surged. Various types of energy interweaved and collided with each other in a domineering and absolute manner. Su Yi circulated the energy in his body to the limit and charged with all his strength. He wanted to break through 3 levels in one go and break through the 5th level of the origin void stage. After a long time, a powerful pressure brazenly spread out. Chapter 1097. Su Yi's aura is too powerful. Not far away, Yuan Xuan, Ji Hanhua, Lin Donghao, Chen Chuan, and the others were all shocked. They had already retreated to a corner, but the powerful aura emitted from Su Yi's body still made them feel suffocated. The ferocious pressure enveloped them, causing their souls to tremble. Accompanying it were waves of energy that were as vast as the sea that squeezed them, causing them to have no choice but to use their methods to resist. Fortunately, this situation on Su Yi's body did not last for too long before it began to retreat like flowing water. A mouthful of turbid air was spat out from his mouth, and the light on his body slowly withdrew. Under Su Yi's control, the 5th level of the origin void stage power finally stopped rampaging and was gradually stabilized by him. Swish! When Su Yi opened his eyes, there were 2 bright lights that shot out from his eyes like lightning, awe-inspiring and brilliant. All the fluctuations in the surroundings withdrew and returned to Su Yi's body. So this is the 5th level of the origin void stage? Feels pretty good. Su Yi stood up lightly and clenched his fists. Under the circulation of the energy in his body, a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. He could clearly feel that there was a huge change in his body. The void divine sea seemed to have expanded a little, and his origin energy was even more abundant. As he circulated it, it was aggressive. Moreover, the biggest change should be the bones in Su Yi's body. At this moment, more than half of them had transformed into origin yang heavenly bones. Every single one of them was like a crimson-red jade, constantly releasing a scorching and fierce aura that was produced by a mysterious energy. At the same time, Su Yi felt that his blood seemed to be undergoing a transformation at the same time. This transformation was not fast, but Su Yi could still clearly feel that it was caused by the mysterious energy that was constantly being released by the origin yang heavenly bones. If the origin yang heavenly bones are completely cultivated, I'm afraid there will be a huge change. Su Yi was slightly expectant. His intuition told him that when every bone in his body transformed into origin yang heavenly bones, something unexpected would happen. At this moment, the origin energy within his body was like a roiling river that surged and surged with an imposing force. This was the feeling of the 5th level of the origin void stage. Su-yi only felt that his whole body was filled with power. If he were to fight with Qin Yuxing, Jing Qiran, Chao Yunfei, and Fu Dongxian again, he would probably only need 1.5 moves to end the battle. The difference between this and when he was at the second level of the Origin Void stage was simply too great. Su-yi. At this time, Ji Hanua, Chun Chuan, and the rest walked up to Su-yi and asked. The faces of these 10 people were brimming with excitement and joy. Looks like you guys have also improved a lot. Looking back, Su-yi found that the aura of these people had greatly improved compared to before. There were even 10 people who had broken through from the second level to the fourth level. This kind of progress was absolutely terrifying. No wonder they were all so happy. It turned out that they had obtained great benefits. Even Yu Wenxuan, Lin Donghao, and Lin Bingyao had directly stepped into the 9th level of the Origin True stage. Ji Hanua's cultivation was close to the 8th level of the Origin True stage now. Of course, Yu Wenxuan and the others were still at the Origin True stage. Compared to Su-yi's improvement, it was still not worth mentioning. All of this is thanks to brother Su-yi. If it wasn't for ascending the Nirvana Dragon Arena, we would surely have to spend a lot of time to break through several levels. Shen Hong's face suddenly became solemn as he spoke to Su-yi seriously. This time, Su-yi had not only provided them with free entry spots, allowing Chen Chuan, Shen Hong, and Yi Haokong to enter the secret realm of omniscient spirits, but he had also allowed them to step onto the Nirvana Dragon platform and obtain terrifying benefits. This caused the 3 of them to be grateful. Coupled with the terrifying strength that Su-yi had revealed all along the way, it caused the others to look at him with even more reverence. Hearing Shen Hong's words, Su-yi was about to say something when the Nirvana Dragon Arena suddenly rumbled and shook. When this tremor appeared, a white light sprinkled down from the sky, covering the bodies of the group of people in it. "Are we going out?" Su-yi murmured. The aura of the white light was somewhat familiar. It was exactly the same as the light that entered the secret realm of ominous spirit. "We are going out. The sect leader will be very happy when he knows about this," a disciple of the Xianjian sect said excitedly. Beside him, Lin Donghao, Lin Bingyao, Ji Hanua, Yu Wenxuan, Chen Chuan, and the others were also very happy. Indeed, everyone had reaped a bountiful harvest from this trip to the secret territory. Just the Nirvana Dragon platform alone had given them great benefit. If the elders in the sect knew about this, they would definitely be very happy. As third-rate sects and itinerant cultivators, being able to reap as much benefits as first-rate and second-rate forces was definitely something to be proud of. In the future, they would also become the object of envy of countless people. In fact, what they didn't know was that many people from the first-rate and second-rate forces who had ascended the Nirvana Dragon Arena were very puzzled because they had gained too little benefits from the Nirvana Dragon Arena. It was especially so for the people on the lower levels. Those prodigies who had originally occupied a level estimated that the progress they had gained was roughly half of what they had expected. As for those who had been blessed by their sect's disciples and had been brought up to the Nirvana Dragon Arena, they had only made some insignificant progress. In contrast, they couldn't be mentioned in the same breath as the Xianjian sect, Liuhe sect, Chen Chuan, and the others. All of this was thanks to Su-yi. Whoosh, the white light sprinkled down and enveloped the entire Nirvana Dragon Arena. From top to bottom, everyone's figure was covered, including the Nirvana Dragon Arena. "We are going out. Let's go." Below the Nirvana Dragon Arena, the disciples of various forces rushed out and entered the white light one by one. Outside the secret realm, in front of the 2 towering mountains, figures had already gathered. Many of these people were elders who had come to receive their disciples. In addition, there were also many onlookers. "Did you see that? That's Hong Qianlong, the leader of the Big Dipper sect. His son, Hong Jianqiu, was killed by Su-yi in the secret realm." Among the crowd, A small itinerant cultivator lowered his voice as he spoke to his companions. Under his instructions, a middle-aged man in a brocade robe could be seen standing in the distance. He was tall and majestic, exuding a domineering aura. The middle-aged man's eyebrows were tightly knitted together, and his face was filled with hostility. It was as though he would kill anyone who disagreed with him. Behind him, there were several figures with fierce auras, including Elder Wu of the Big Dipper sect. As though he had heard someone talking about him, Hong Qianlong suddenly shifted his gaze and glared fiercely at the itinerant cultivator who had just spoken. Following that, a terrifying pressure spread out and ruthlessly suppressed the itinerant cultivator. Puff! The itinerant cultivator's face immediately turned purple, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes turned white, and he fell to the ground in exhaustion. No one knew whether he was dead or alive. Seeing this, his companions were so frightened that their faces turned pale. They hurriedly retreated far away and pretended that they didn't know the itinerant cultivator just now, for fear of being implicated. In their chests, their hearts were beating like a drum, thumping loudly. Fortunately, Hong Qianlong ignored them. After seeing that the itinerant cultivator was suppressed by him, he withdrew his gaze and continued to stare at the exit of the secret realm with a frown. This person's cultivation is so powerful. Many people in the surroundings could not help but feel aghast when they saw this scene. This was the power of the leader of the Big Dipper sect. A leader of a second-rate force had suppressed an itinerant cultivator with just a glance. This was too terrifying, and it was something that many people couldn't imagine. The leader of the Big Dipper sect is here personally. This time, he's definitely here for Sui. After seeing Hong Qianlong's power, they couldn't help but feel anxious and worried about Sui. Everyone knew that the young leader of the Big Dipper sect, Hong Jianqiu, had died in the hands of the young man from the Bawang sect, Sui, in the secret realm of ominous spirits. Normally, one's life and death in the secret realm was determined by oneself. Everything could be blamed for being too weak, and no one could be blamed for it. However, everyone knew that the saying that everything depended on one's strength was only meant for the weak. For the strong, if they suffered too much in the secret realm, how could they not take revenge? If Hong Jianqiu had died in the hands of a first-rate force's disciple, Hong Qianlong wouldn't have dared to say a word. However, Hong Jianqiu had been killed by Sui. An unknown Bawang sect disciple would be easily suppressed by the Big Dipper sect. This was the Chaos region, and this was the rule that the strong were respected. Hong Qianlong's strength is so strong. He's at least in the 8th or 9th level of the Origin Royal Realm. Not far away, a group of people had gathered. They were the people from the Bawang sect, the Xianjian sect, and the Liuhe sect. After seeing Hong Qianlong's power, Elder Feng Qizong of the Liuhe sect spoke in a daze. He was nervous as he spoke. Elder Guming, who was beside him, was in a similar situation. He was also anxious. 9th level Origin Emperor realm. Moreover, he doesn't look like an ordinary 9th level Origin Emperor. Merciless West said softly. As soon as these words came out, everyone's expression tightened. 9th level Origin Emperor realm. Among the people from the 3 sects, the strongest one was only at the 7th level Origin Emperor realm. Moreover, only Ji Tianfu and Merciless West were present. In fact, other than Su Xiaoshui, the Green Emperor, the Yin-Yang Emperor of the Dead, the Devouring Spirit Sovereign, and Huang Jian, the people from the Xianjian sect and the Liuhe sect were still unaware of Merciless West's true cultivation level. This is really troublesome. Ji Tianfu's eyebrows were tightly knitted together, and his expression was extremely solemn. At the same time, Elder Feng Qizong and Elder Guming's expressions were also uncertain. They were definitely allies with Sui. However, if they were to go against the Big Dipper sect, which was a second-rate force, it would be no different from courting death. The strength of the Xianjian sect was close to that of a second-rate force, But the Big Dipper sect was not the weakest second-rate force. Chapter 1098. How dare the Tiangang sect try to kill my boss? Su Xiaoshui poked his head out of Merciless West's arms and snorted. These words caused Ji Tianfu, Feng Qizong, and Guming to be stunned, and they felt that this strange little bird's tone was really boundlessly arrogant. However, when they turned their heads and took a closer look, they found that not only the little bird, but also the other members of the Bawang sect, although they looked worried, were very calm and did not panic at all. In particular, Merciless West, who was the leader of the group, did not show any emotion on her face. At most, we will fight them. It's just the Tiangang sect. We, the Bawang sect, are not afraid of them, the Green Emperor said in a deep voice, without any panic. He had experienced the horrible battle at the Holy Martial Arts Conference. He had even fought with the powerhouses of the Holy Mountain and experienced life and death situations, let alone a second-rate force in the Chaos region. I haven't fought side by side with my master. I'm really looking forward to it, the Yinyang Emperor of the Dead said lightly with a smile on his handsome face. Ji Tianfu and the others fell into silence and did not speak. They did not know what to do at that moment. Whether to help Su Yi fight against the Tiangang sect, they could only wait and see. The outside of the mystery land gradually became quiet and the atmosphere became more and more tense. Many people with low cultivation found it difficult to breathe. Countless gazes were focused on Hong Qianlung's figure, as they watched him unleash a tremendous murderous intent. Walala, suddenly everyone's spirits were lifted. Between the two majestic mountains, white light shone brightly, dazzling and bright. They are coming out. Many people endured the dazzling white light and stared at the two mountains. In the next moment, many figures flew out and appeared outside the mountains in the blink of an eye. #GS Original V version debut N Su Yi. Among the first group of people to appear, there was a young man. He was Su Yi of the Bawang sect. Boom! In an instant, Hong Qianlung stomped his foot in the air, causing the entire world to shake violently. His fist soared through the sky and transformed into a ferocious golden fist aura that seemed to carry the might of punishing the heavens and killing the earth. Waves of light and imposing pressure directly caused the air to explode, and a terrifying vortex appeared as it charged towards Su Yi at lightning speed. Buzz buzz, in just an instant Su Yi's entire body seemed to have been grabbed by an invisible hand, and he was completely unable to move. An invisible force had firmly confined him to the spot. Hong Qianlung's fist arrived before him in the blink of an eye. The powerful force was like an avalanche. Under the pressure, Su Yi's body cracked inch by inch, and blood spurted out. On the other hand, Ji Hanhua, Chen Chuan, Lin Donghao, and the others who came out with Su Yi were instantly swept away by an invisible airflow. They were like leaves in a storm, unable to control themselves. Hong Qianlung has made his move. The surrounding crowd's hearts were all in their mouth. Hong Qianlung's first move was such a terrifying force. The ferocious force of a high-level Origin Emperor realm expert made many people's scalps tingle. With that young man's strength, he would probably be killed on the spot under this blow. Su Yi is in danger. Under the gaze of everyone, the young man's body was suppressed, and he had no strength to resist. No matter how strong an Origin Void Realm expert was, it was impossible for him to survive in the hands of a high-level Origin Emperor Realm expert. Sigh. Someone had already sighed, feeling sorry for Su Yi. Such a young man was rare in the world. At the age of 17, he was able to suppress a group of young experts in the Chaos region who were close to 30. If he were to die here, it would definitely be a huge regret. However, no one could change anything. That was a second-rate force's move. Unless someone from a first-rate force stepped forward, there might be a chance to save Su Yi. However, it was likely that no first-rate force would do so. However, Just when everyone thought that Sui was going to die, a terrifying soul force suddenly spread out. At the same time, an old man in a black robe stepped out. His aura surged, and his origin chi shone brightly. He was like an emperor. When he raised his eyes slightly, his aura was surging and shocking. The old man's black robe fluttered without wind. His hands formed a seal, and suddenly, a huge flood dragon appeared in front of him. Roar! The flood dragon roared and shone brightly, as if it had traveled through time and space. It carried a vast killing intent and rushed towards Hong Qianlung's golden fist shadow in an instant. The flood dragon's shadow soared into the sky, shaking the space. It was filled with monstrous power, and its aura rushed into the night sky as if a real dragon had descended, capable of destroying everything in its path. Rumble! All of a sudden, the dragon and the fist collided directly. Heaven and earth trembled horribly, and even the two mountains in the distance seemed to be trembling. Around them, a terrifying energy storm swept out like an autumn wind, and the nearby figures were all pushed back. A bright light bloomed, as if it was going to penetrate the void. Ugh! Sui only felt that his chest was about to explode, and a muffled groan came from his throat. He was swept away by the powerful force, and he was completely helpless. Fortunately, the restrictive force on his body had been broken, and his origin chi began to circulate again. Soon, he stabilized his body. Walala! The layers of rolling energy in the sky dissipated, and the flood dragon and the fist shadow disappeared, revealing two figures standing opposite each other. One of them was the sect leader of the Big Dipper sect, Hong Qianlung, and the other was an old man in a black robe. At this moment, he was staring coldly at the middle-aged man opposite him. Hong Qianlung was blocked. The surrounding onlookers were all stunned. When they saw this scene, they were all shocked. Who is that old man? He blocked Hong Qianlung's attack and saved Sui. Many people found it hard to believe. Many of them knew Hong Qianlung's cultivation, but at this moment, an old man suddenly appeared and blocked Hong Qianlung's killing blow. A soul controller. That old man is a soul controller. Someone was extremely shocked. The flood dragon's shadow just now could only be used by a soul controller. Who are you? How dare you stop me? Hong Qianlung shouted as he stared coldly at the old man opposite him. The metal-type energy in his body flowed incessantly. It was sharp and fierce, and the sound of metal spears rang out, as if it was going to destroy the heavens and the earth. Hong Qianlung's brocade robe fluttered in the wind, and his aura was still rising. Suicidal Yama, merciless West. These words slowly came out of the mouth of the old man in the black robe. When these words came out, it instantly caused an uproar among the onlookers. Many people seemed to have been injected with chicken blood. What? Suicidal Yama, merciless West? He is the suicidal Yama, merciless West? Is he the merciless West who refined the bone-devouring soul pill? I've heard of his name. It is said that merciless West is not only an alchemist, but also a soul controller. Exclamations quickly spread, and many people quickly understood the old man's identity. The name Suicidal Yama, merciless West, was definitely famous among some people in the Chaos Territory. The most famous thing about him was not his cultivation, but the bone-devouring soul pill that he refined, and his identity as a soul controller. Until now, the bone-devouring soul pill was still in circulation in some places in the Chaos Territory. Such a person with extraordinary cultivation, alchemist, and soul controller would be treated as a distinguished guest even if he entered a first-rate force. Naturally, no one would look down on him. Merciless West's strength is so strong that he can fight head-on with the sect leader of the Tiangang sect. It seems that he is much stronger than the rumors. This is going to be a good show. I don't know if Suicidal Yama, merciless West, can really stop Hong Qianlung. Many people began to look forward to it. They felt that today's matter would not end so easily, and that there would be a fierce battle to come. Suicidal Yama, merciless West, how dare you meddle in the affairs of the Tiangang sect? Hong Qianlung's voice was extremely cold as he stared at merciless West. Just as he finished speaking, several figures flew out and rushed towards Sui again. Little bastard, you are going to die today. Among the figures, there was Elder Wu of the Tiangang sect. The rest were Origin Emperors of the Tiangang sect. At the same time, they surrounded Sui. There was a total of 3 people. I would like to see who is going to die today. Suddenly, several figures flew out and landed in front of Sui, protecting him behind them. The one who had just spoken was an ordinary-looking little bird. Fierce fluctuations rose from the 5 figures. The aura of an emperor filled the surroundings, and the pressure spread out, causing the space to tremble. The 3 people from the Heavenly Dipper sect stopped their actions when they saw the 5 of them. They did not immediately attack. Boss, how are you? Master, are you okay? Su Xiaoshui, Green Emperor, Yin Yang Ghost Emperor, Devouring Spirit Emperor, and Huang Jian landed in front of Su Yi and asked with concern. Don't worry, I am fine. Su Yi shook his head. He had suffered quite a bit of shock, but he was not injured. However, when he thought about it, he still felt a lingering fear. If it was not for his brother, Merciless West, who had intervened in time, he would have been killed by the middle-aged man. Su Yi glanced at not far away. Ji Hanhua, Yuanshuan, and the others were safe. They had been swept away by the storm, but Ji Tianfu and the others had rushed forward to rescue them. Otherwise, under the pressure of the middle-aged man's aura, the group of young Origin Emperors would have been seriously injured. That little bastard, I will kill him with my own hands, Hong Qianlung said coldly. After glancing at Su Yi, he looked at Merciless West again and said, Since you are courting death, you and this little bastard shall pay for my son's death today. His 10 fingers moved rapidly, and a sharp golden aura burst out from his body. A terrifying yuan qi surged out, and it was extremely sharp. Chapter 1099. Following the tiger's roar, heaven and earth shook and the earth cracked. It was a ferocious scene. Many people in the surroundings had subconsciously sealed their hearing, but the terrifying roar still caused their blood to churn. There were even those with insufficient cultivation and without the protection of experts, who directly coughed up blood from their chests. The peak of the 9th level of the Origin Emperor realm is not far from the Origin Ancestor realm. The moment Hong Qianlung made his move, the surrounding experts were able to clearly see through his cultivation. They had to admit that the sect master of the Tiangang sect was extremely powerful and could be ranked as one of the rare experts in the world. Merciless West is also very powerful, but judging from his appearance, he seems to have just stepped into the 7th level of the Origin Emperor realm. I'm afraid he is not Hong Qianlung's match, someone said, thinking that Merciless West would not be able to defeat Hong Qianlung. 7th level of the Origin Emperor realm, coupled with the means of a soul controller, might be able to defeat an ordinary 9th level of the Origin Emperor realm. However, if he wanted to fight with Hong Qianlung, who was at the peak of the 9th level of the Origin Emperor realm, who was only a step away from the Origin Ancestor realm, he was still not strong enough. With such thoughts in mind, everyone continued to look at the shocking battle in the sky. The terrifying big tiger was like a mountain. It stomped its hooves, raised its head, and roared. A huge tiger claw slammed out. It seemed to be able to destroy mountains as it pressed down on Merciless West. An extremely serious look appeared on Shi Wuqing's face. His soul power surged like waves. As his hand seals continued to condense, they quickly condensed into a huge ferocious bird, occupying the void. This ferocious bird seemed to be formed by raging flames. Its entire body was burning with torrential flames. With a flap of its wings, 2 fire dragons flew out crazily and collided with the huge tiger shadow. The tiger's claw tore the sky and split the earth while the ferocious bird pounced. These two beast shadows, one was formed by the origin chi, while the other was a barbaric beast shadow controlled by a soul controller. They fought fiercely against each other. Boom, boom, boom. The sky was filled with rumbling sounds. Clang, clang. Fiery light and sharp metal energy shot out in all directions. The battle between the two beasts shook the heavens and the earth. In the distance, mountain rocks exploded, and the ground beneath their feet caved in. The void trembled fiercely. In the end, both of them gradually faded away at the same time, turning into shattered energy. As for Shi Wuqing and Hong Qianlong, they were both knocked back. After retreating 300 feet, Hong Qianlong steadied his body, and his feet were like nails in the void. On the other hand, the merciless West team only stopped when they were about 40 feet away. Just as some experts had expected, Merciless West was still much weaker than Hong Qianlong in terms of cultivation. The difference between the two was obvious. It was obvious that Merciless West was at a slight disadvantage. However, such a result had already completely shocked the surrounding crowd. Suicidal Yama Merciless West can actually exchange blows with a peak 9th level Origin Emperor. That's too powerful. Fighting across levels. That's why soul controllers are so powerful. It turns out that not only is he good at refining elixirs, but his strength is also so terrifying. It was unknown how many people were shocked by Shi Wuqing's strength at this moment. What a powerful 7th level Origin Emperor! He's indeed a soul controller. In the distance, Elder Xie and some other experts from the Green Cloud Hall had arrived at the scene. Elder Xie could not help but exclaim in shock when he saw the result of the battle between the two. Hong Qianlong is extraordinarily strong. He can actually block him. Merciless West is a rogue cultivator. It's really extraordinary for him to be able to reach such a level. Elder Tang of the Nine Stars Valley had also arrived and exclaimed. A soul controller comparable to a peak 9th level Origin Emperor was destined to become famous in the Chaos region after today's battle. Many figures from the Blood Sun sect stood at the side, but none of them spoke. They were all observing quietly. Beside them, Wu Jiuyou, Fu Dongxian, and the other disciples had already come out of the Mystery Land and gathered with the experts from the sect. Wu Jiuyou had already briefly told them about the grudge between him and Su Yi. The group of experts from the Blood Sun sect did not immediately express their opinions. They only watched indifferently, and no one knew what they were thinking. On the other side, a middle-aged man in a white robe stood quietly. His figure seemed to be standing in an independent space, and he was somewhat out of tune with the people around him. This middle-aged man was the one who had been called Shangguan Kid by Elder Xie earlier. He had also arrived at the scene. What a powerful soul controller. However, if you think that you can block me with such strength, that's no different from a fool's dream, Hong Qianlong said as he stared coldly at Merciless West. His eyes were cold to the extreme. 2 consecutive attacks had been blocked, and Hong Qianlong was showing signs of going berserk. His only son, Hong Jianqiu, had been killed. He thought that by guarding outside the Mystery Land, he would be able to kill Su Yi with one blow. Who would have thought that such a valiant soul controller would actually appear and block his attack? However, Hong Qianlong was not worried at all, because he had yet to display his full strength. After finishing his sentence, Hong Qianlong took a step forward lightly. However, the strange thing was that such an ordinary step suddenly seemed to have stepped on a special rhythm between heaven and earth, and made a soft dong sound. In an instant, a mysterious aura spread out from his body, and invisible ripples spread out in all directions. There seemed to be a special power descending between heaven and earth, and even the space was affected. Even though they were far away, many martial artists could feel that the area around Hong Qianlong seemed to have become extremely deep and serene. It was as if they would fall into a dark abyss if they stepped into it. Among the three first-rate forces, Elder Xie, Elder Tang, and the others saw this and cried out in surprise. Absolute territory! This is the power of absolute territory. Hong Qianlong is already so strong. How is he still at the 9th level of the Origin Emperor realm? He is already a half-step to the Origin Ancestor realm. When the shocked words came out from their mouths, the surrounding martial artists, who did not know what was going on, instantly felt their scalps go numb. However, there was no time for them to think too much. They saw Hong Qianlong take a few steps forward and appear in front of Merciless West. The invisible ripples enveloped Merciless West directly. The mysterious power intertwined and wrapped around Merciless West. Under everyone's gaze, the black-robed old man formed seals with his hands again, but his movements were much slower this time. Is this the power of absolute territory? Merciless West muttered to himself. His eyes were like lightning and his face was cold. Being in Hong Qianlong's absolute territory, he felt as if he had fallen into a swamp, and every move he made was greatly hindered. Compared to Hong Qianlong's speed, Merciless West looked like he was playing around. His movements of forming seals were extremely slow. If I want to kill that little bastard Sui, no one will be able to stop me. These words came out of Hong Qianlong's mouth. He had already walked to Merciless West's side. As he raised his hand, a glittering golden handprint appeared, as if it was made of pure gold. This handprint was like a celestial being touching the top of his head as it slapped down on Merciless West's head. Big brother! Sui, who was watching from afar, suddenly felt his heart in his throat. Merciless West's movements were stagnant. If he was unable to escape quickly, he would definitely be hit by this handprint. In the end, the gap between their cultivation levels is too big. A 9th-level Origin Emperor might be able to put up a fight, but a half-step to the Origin Ancestor realm really has no chance of winning. Elder Xie said with a sigh from the Green Cloud Hall. Shi Susu, Qin Yusheng and the others beside him, as well as the 9 Stars Valley's Elder Tang and the others not far away, all had expressions of shock and regret. A half-step to the Origin Ancestor realm was already out of the Origin Emperor realm. There was a huge gap between the two realms. This gap could no longer be bridged by the means of a soul controller. From the looks of it, Merciless West was doomed. What a pity! Everyone's eyes were fixed on Hong Qianlong and Merciless West as they waited for the final outcome. However, just as everyone thought that Merciless West's head would be smashed into pieces, a shocking change occurred. PSSSH, a bright ray of light suddenly rushed out from between Merciless West's eyebrows like a bolt of lightning. It seemed to be able to completely ignore Hong Qianlong's absolute territory as it rushed towards Hong Qianlong's head, catching him off guard. A spiritual storm suddenly erupted. It was extremely ferocious, as if there was a cold wind howling between the heavens and the earth. The aura of the celestial demons surged and spread in all directions. The powerful spiritual attack dazzled Hong Qianlong for an instant. His head felt like it was about to split open as immense pain assaulted him. Bam! Hong Qianlong's body seemed to have suffered a violent blow as he was sent flying. However, even though his handprint was chaotic, it still managed to hit Merciless West's head. Shi Wuqing's body smashed down from the sky, creating a deep pit several feet deep on the ground. After a long while, he flew out unsteadily. However, there was fresh blood at the corner of his mouth and his face was as pale as a sheet. On the other hand, Hong Qianlong looked as if he had suffered something terrible. He held his head tightly with both hands and retreated again and again, his face filled with pain. After a while, he spat out a mouthful of blood, dyeing the sky red. Only then did the intense pain on his face ease slightly. However, Hong Qianlong's mouth was like a bellows as he gasped for air. He no longer had the domineering demeanor from before. This was a head-on collision. Whether it was Merciless West or Hong Qianlong, both of them had suffered serious injuries and their combat strength had been greatly reduced. However, at this moment the entire place was dead silent. It was so quiet that even the sound of a pin dropping could be heard. The surrounding crowd was speechless for a long time as they stared at the two men, as if they had seen a ghost. Chapter 1100. Big Brother. Su-yi, Little Handsome Su, and the others quickly reacted and rushed to Merciless West's side. Su-yi took out a few bottles of spiritual liquid and stuffed them all into Merciless West's hands. Merciless West didn't seem to be in a good state at the moment. Half of his aura had withered. Su-yi immediately looked at Hong Qianlong with a cold glint in his eyes. He would remember this person and the Tiangang sect in his heart. "I'm fine. I won't die yet," Merciless West said with gritted teeth after swallowing the spiritual liquid. His expression had eased a little. A handprint could be seen above his head. Fresh blood was seeping out of it. It was extremely terrifying. Following the actions of Su-yi and the others, the countless onlookers in front of the majestic twin peaks seemed to have woken up from a dream. Instantly there was an uproar. He blocked it. Merciless West blocked it. The attack of a half-step to Yuan ancestor was actually blocked. Unbelievable! He's only at the 7th level of the Origin Emperor realm. How could he break through an absolute territory? This is no longer a battle of a higher level. This is a battle of a higher level. Such discussions could be heard from all over the crowd. Some of the martial artists seemed to have been injected with chicken blood and were extremely excited. If Merciless West's blocking of Hong Qianlong's first two attacks had brought endless shock to everyone, then after the third attack, everyone felt that only the word abnormal could describe him. Hong Qianlong was already at the half-step Origin Ancestor realm. What kind of concept was that? Many people couldn't explain it clearly because most of them had never seen what kind of existence the Origin Ancestor realm was and what kind of power it possessed. However, if they were to use a word to describe it, it would definitely be powerful. If they were to summarize another characteristic, it would be the absolute territory. The peak of the 9th level of the Origin Emperor realm can be considered as one step away from the Origin Ancestor realm. It is extremely tyrannical and can move unhindered in the world, rarely meeting a worthy opponent. On the other hand, the half-step Yuan Zong stage already has 1 foot in the door of the Yuan Zong stage. Compared to the half-step Yuan Zong stage, they are two completely different concepts. The greatest characteristic of the Origin Ancestor stage is the ability to control some of the mysterious rules between heaven and earth, affect space, and form a domain that belongs to oneself outside of the body. Within the domain, it possesses absolute control and is thus called an absolute domain. Without sufficient strength, it is impossible to break through absolute dominion under normal circumstances. Once one is trapped within it, one can only wait to be slaughtered. An expert spoke up and said. The surrounding people were all shocked to the extreme. The words absolute domain were enough to explain everything. It was a technique that could affect the rules of space. However, it was under such circumstances that Merciless West had managed to break through the absolute domain of a half-step Origin Ancestor, and break the shackles of space. What was even more frightening was that Hong Qianlong had been seriously injured by her soul energy attack. He had not been able to gain the slightest advantage over Merciless West. Merciless West, what a great guy! Hong Qianlong's eyes were fixed on the black-robed old man. Endless viciousness and ruthlessness flowed in his eyes. He took a step forward in the void and wanted to attack again. However, as he circulated his yuan qi, his mind felt as though it was about to explode. An immense pain suddenly attacked him again, causing Hong Qianlong's movements to stagnate. His body swayed a little, and he had no choice but to give up. Sect Master. Seeing the situation, Elder Wu and the other 2 origin emperors of the Tiangang sect stepped forward and wanted to support Hong Qianlong. However, Hong Qianlong waved his hand to stop them. Su Yi must die today. Whoever stops me will be the enemy of the Tiangang sect. Hong Qianlong stared coldly at Su Yi, who was standing beside Merciless West, and said in a deep voice. His expression was extremely ugly. He had never imagined that he would actually be blocked by a 7th-level origin emperor and even suffer such serious injuries. If he were to continue fighting, it would be difficult for him to break through the blockade of Merciless West. Capture Su Yi for me. Spare his life. I want to send him to hell with my own hands. Hong Qianlong spoke again. As soon as he finished speaking, his body began to brew up a ferocious aura and spread it towards Merciless West. When Elder Wu and the rest saw this, they understood the intention of their sect master. Immediately, they stepped forward and slowly surrounded Su Yi. 3 high-level origin emperors. Su Yi and the rest will have a hard time resisting them. Seeing that Elder Wu and the others were forcing their way over, someone in the crowd frowned and said, Elder Wu and the other 2 were all high-level origin emperors. In terms of cultivation, each of them was even higher than Merciless West. Looking at Su Yi's side, it would be difficult for them to resist. Once a fight broke out, the outcome was imaginable. Father, quickly go and help Su Yi. Ji Hanua, who was in the formation of Xianjian sect, said anxiously. Beside her, Ji Tianfu frowned and did not move immediately. No one knew what he was thinking about. Sect Master. Yuan Xuan was also anxious at this moment. He saw that the people of Tiangang sect were releasing their auras. However, Yuan Xuan knew what Ji Tianfu was worried about. That was Tiangang sect, a powerful second-rate force that was many times stronger than Xianjian sect. If they were to make an enemy out of Tiangang sect, the entire Xianjian sect might not be able to survive. Forget it. In the end, Ji Tianfu sighed and said, ever since this kid appeared, he has been involved with Xianjian sect. Moreover, he has brought great benefits to Xianjian sect every time. Based on this, if I don't help him today, it would be a little too heartless. After Ji Tianfu finished speaking, he flew up into the sky and landed in front of Su Yi. His cultivation of 7th-level origin emperor instantly erupted and collided with the auras of Elder Wu and the rest. Elders, should we help or not? Over at Liuha's sect, Lin Donghao's handsome eyebrows were tightly knitted together as he asked. If it wasn't for Su Yi, we wouldn't have been able to obtain such great benefits in the secret land of ominous spirits. It's only right that we help him. However, Tiangang sect. Lin Bingyao's voice carried a deep sense of entanglement. The people of Liuha sect were hesitant and did not know what to do. Helping Su Yi was something that they should do out of friendship. However, if they offended Tiangang sect, Liuha sect would be doomed eternally. Regardless of whether they could escape unscathed today, even if they could save Su Yi, Tiangang sect would not let them off easily in the future. Young sect master, eldest miss, this matter will be decided by the both of you. As long as young sect master and eldest miss are determined to help Su Yi, Elder Go and I will do our best to help Bawang sect. Elder Feng Qizong cupped his fists and said to Lin Donghao and Lin Bingyao. They were the children of the sect master, and this matter was greatly related to the future of Liuha sect. It was most appropriate for them to make the decision. Hearing Elder Feng Qizong's words, Elder Guming nodded in agreement. Lin Donghao and Lin Bingyao fell into deep thought. After a long while, the two suddenly raised their heads, looked at each other, and said in unison, "Help." As they spoke, Lin Donghao and Lin Bingyao both said firmly, and their eyes were extremely firm. Good. In that case, the two of us will join in today. The final outcome will depend on God's will. When Elder Feng Qizong heard this, he suddenly laughed heartily. His figure stepped into the air and landed beside Ji Tianfu. Elder Guming did not fall behind and landed directly opposite the three experts of Tiangang's sect. A vast aura rose from the two elders of Liuha sect for no reason, as if they were enemies with Tiangang's sect. The two of them felt their blood boiling at the same time. Walala, the Green Emperor, Yin Yang Underworld Emperor, Devouring Spirit Sovereign, Huang Jian, Ji Tianfu, Feng Qizong, and Guming, a total of 7 martial emperors, stood side by side in front of Su Yi. Everyone's aura was magnificent and surging like a fountain. Ji Tianfu, Feng Qizong, and Guming, in particular, were at 7th level Origin Emperor realm. Under the entanglement of their aura, they were extremely terrifying. In addition to the Green Emperor, Yin Yang Underworld Emperor, and the others, their aura actually suppressed the people of Tiangang sect. The appearance of the three people made Su Yi raise his eyebrows. He glanced at Ji Hanua, Lin Donghao, and the others not far away and felt deeply moved. In fact, in Su Yi's heart, when facing a colossus like Tiangang sect, the most reasonable choice was for Xianjian sect and Liuha sect to stay out of it. However, Su Yi did not expect that at this critical moment, Xianjian sect and Liuha sect would stand in front of him and face Tiangang sect head-on. It was precisely because of this that Su Yi's side had gained the upper hand. This Bawang sect is not weak. He actually has so many martial emperors, and he even has the help of Xianjian sect and Liuha sect. This is getting more interesting. I'm afraid that Hong Qianlong will not be able to suppress Merciless West. However, looking at the current situation, the Tiangang sect still does not have enough martial emperors. The Xianjian faction and the Liuha faction are really brave. How dare they stand out to help Su Yi at this moment? If Su Yi gets away today, I'm afraid Tiangang sect will become the laughingstock of the entire Chaos region. Indeed, the sect leader of a powerful second-rate force, who is a half-step to Origin Ancestor realm, is here personally. If he can't even take down a nobody from Bawang sect, I'm afraid many people will mock and ridicule him. Seeing that the situation had changed again, the surrounding crowd began to discuss fervently again. Many people could imagine how furious Hong Qianlong, the sect leader of Tiangang sect, would be when he heard that his son had been killed. He would then rush to the mystery region alone. However, at this time, no one cared about that. They only wanted to see the battle between the two parties. They wanted to know whether Su Yi would be able to get away successfully, and who would emerge victorious in the battle between Merciless West and Hong Qianlong. Looking at the current situation, it seemed that the Bawang sect had the upper hand overall. However, at this time, 2 more figures flew out and entered the battlefield. Ji Tianfu, Feng Qizong, Guming, this is not the place for Xianjian sect and Liuha sect to interfere. With the Gimdao sect and 7-star sword school here, Su Yi will not be able to escape today. Chapter 1101. Yang Baikuan was at the 5th level of the Origin Emperor realm, while Ran Jianxian was at the 7th level of the Origin Emperor realm. Both of them were extremely powerful. With their appearance, the Big Dipper sect's disadvantage was turned around. The auras of the martial emperors on both sides flowed silently. The terrifying power spread out in the void like a raging fire. Xianjian sect, Liuha sect. Good. Very good. Hong Qianlong turned his head and looked at Ji Tianfu, Feng Qizong, and Guming as he spoke gloomily. He had never expected that a small Bawang sect would be able to stop the Big Dipper sect today. Furthermore, the Xianjian sect and Liuha sect were also involved. Such an outcome made Hong Qianlong extremely gloomy. That day, when he received news from Elder Wu about the death of his only son, he was furious and heartbroken at the same time. He didn't bother to talk to the experts in the sect and immediately rushed to the secret realm of Zhao Ling alone to kill Su Yi. In Hong Qianlong's opinion, given his half-step to the Origin Ancestor realm cultivation, He could kill that little bastard with one slap. However, he had never expected that the other party would have a powerful soul controller who was so powerful that even he had suffered a great loss. I would like to see if you can really stop me today. Hong Qianlung's eyebrows furrowed. Ferocious intent shot out from his eyes. As his words fell, the anger of both sides grew even more intense. It was like a taut bowstring that was about to be released at any moment. The atmosphere was getting more and more solemn. A terrifying battle was brewing and could erupt at any time. The surrounding crowd seemed to be holding their breath. No one dared to make a sound. Little bastard, among the Green Cloud Hall's lineup, Susu bit her lips tightly. Her beautiful eyes were filled with splendor and ripples. Junior sister, are you worried about Su-yi? Qin Yu glanced at her gently and asked curiously. No. Susu immediately denied it. However, she suddenly realized that she seemed to be worried about that little bastard. When Elder Xie heard the conversation between the two of them, he glanced at Susu in surprise. Then, he turned his head away and did not say anything. His aged eyes were extremely deep, like a black abyss. No one knew what he was thinking. On the other side, the people from the Blood Sun sect were also paying close attention to the situation. Hong Qianlung is really useless. A half-step Origin Ancestor can't even defend against a 7th-level Origin Emperor. What a piece of trash. Elder Bai, who was dressed in a green robe, said disdainfully with a gloomy expression. Everyone remained silent. In fact, everyone knew that it was not that Hong Qianlung was not powerful, but that Merciless West's methods were too terrifying. Elder Bai, that Su-yi obtained an artifact spirit in the secret realm. I wonder what kind of treasure it is. What should we do? Should we make a move now? Wu Jiuyo came forward and whispered into Elder Bai's ear. For the sake of that small beast artifact spirit, he had been seriously injured by Su-yi and even lost the opportunity to ascend the Nirvana Dragon platform. This made Wu Jiuyo extremely resentful. No one else knows about this. Don't spread this news. We don't have to make a move recklessly and let others know. Elder Bai waved his hand and said softly, however, I'm afraid that Hong Qianlung isn't absolutely confident that he can kill Su-yi. Since that's the case, we might as well help him. At the end of his speech, Elder Bai began to laugh coldly like a scheming fox. Kill them all. Don't let anyone who is related to the Bawang sect go. Hong Qianlung finally spoke again. His absolute territory spread out again, affecting the space. He was about to confront Merciless West directly. In addition, Elder Wu, Ran Jianxian, Yang Baikuan, and the others all surged their auras as they charged toward Su-yi and the others. Looks like we're in trouble today. Su-yi's heart was incomparably heavy. Today's matter had reached such a stage, it was also not something he had expected. At the beginning, Su-yi had thought that there would probably be 9th-level Origin Emperors from the Tiangang sect. Who would have thought that there would be a half-step Origin Ancestor realm? Even his big brother, Merciless West, could not defeat him. In addition, the 7-Star Sword School and the Gimdeo sect had also arrived. If it were not for the Xianjian sect and the Liuhe sect, he would have been in grave danger. Let's fight, big brother. We've never been afraid of anyone, Handsome Su said in a low voice as he stood on Su-yi's shoulder. Alright. Since we can't settle this peacefully, the 3 of us brothers shall fight again today. It's a pity that second brother and third brother are not here. After hearing Handsome Su's words, Su-yi did not think too much about it. He took the broken sword in his hand and carried the sacred weapon, the starry soul, on his back. He was ready to summon the demon god battlesuit and have a good fight. However, just as the two sides were about to move at the same time, an old voice suddenly rang out. Hold on. The voice was neither too fast nor too slow, as if it was extremely leisurely. By Zun, what is this old fellow trying to do? When they heard the voice, Elder Xie from the Green Cloud Hall and Elder Tang from the Nine-Star Valley turned to look at the Blood Sun sect's side and stared at the green-robed old man. The two of them were puzzled. They had no idea why Elder Bai had spoken at this time. Huff, huff, huff. After Elder Bai spoke, Hong Qianlong, Merciless West, Su Yi, Handsome Su, Ji Tianfu, Elder Wu, Ran Jianxian, and all the other powerhouses from both sides turned to look at him at the same time. The aura on Merciless West, Hong Qianlong, and the others also eased a little. The person who had spoken was from the Blood Sun sect. Not many people present dared to ignore him. If a first-rate force wanted to intervene at this time, it would definitely have an impact on the outcome. I wonder what the Blood Sun sect is thinking. Could it be that they want to help the Bawang sect? Many people thought to themselves. Some of them even looked forward to it. However, what they could not figure out was that Su Yi had previously chased Wu Jiuyou away like a grandson and even lost the right to enter the Nirvana Dragon Arena. Would the Blood Sun sect really speak up for him now? This old fellow must be up to no good. Su Yi narrowed his eyes as he thought to himself. The Alliance Conference is jointly organized by the top 10 forces. Entering the secret realm of ominous spirits is also a training for the younger generation. It is inevitable that there will be losses. Under everyone's gaze, Elder Bai spoke. He continued, however, Su Yi has gone overboard by killing Hong Jianxiu and the others. Hence, it is reasonable for the Big Dipper sect to seek revenge. When Elder Bai said this, everyone present was a little confused. They did not know what he meant. Was he trying to help Su Yi or stand up for the Big Dipper sect? Or was he trying to be a peacemaker? But then again, this is the Alliance Conference. If there is a terrifying battle right after the conference ends because of this matter, I am afraid the top 10 forces of the Alliance will become a laughing stock. Don't forget that the forces of the 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 sea are also watching the Alliance Conference in the Chaos region. Elder Bai's eyes suddenly became sharp. He swept his gaze across the faces of Merciless West, Hong Qianlong, and the others. He seemed to be a little angry. However, when everyone heard this, they felt that it was too fake. It was true that the forces of the 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 sea were watching the Alliance Conference. However, even if this matter became a laughingstock, would the Blood Sun sect really care? However, no one refuted him. The people of Songyun Palace and 9 Stars Valley wanted to know what the old fox was up to. As for the others, they did not dare to question him. I wonder if Elder Bai has anything to say? The others did not speak, but Hong Qianlong could not hold back his anger. He felt that the Blood Sun sect might stop him from killing Su Yi. At the end of the day, this matter was caused by Su Yi alone. There is no need to make such a big deal out of it. Elder Bai nodded slightly. He looked at Hong Qianlong and said indifferently, if that is the case, why don't we let him come out alone and end everything today? Su Yi raised his eyebrows. He had a vague feeling that something was not right. Elder Bai had said so much in one breath, but he still did not reveal his true intentions. Su Yi had to be careful. Old man, what do you mean? Handsome Su asked in a loud and clear voice. He was not the only one. Everyone at the scene also became serious. They wanted to know what Elder Bai meant. What I mean is simple. Elder Bai's eyes flashed fiercely when he heard how Handsome Su addressed him. However, he did not show any anger on his face. Instead, he chuckled and said, at the end of the day, the feud between the two of you is between Su Yi and Hong Chang Dragon sect. Let the two of them settle it directly. As soon as he said that, Handsome Su roared, old bastard, why don't you just ask my boss to slit his own throat? You may care about your reputation, but the Bawang sect does not. No matter how powerful the Tiangang sect is, can it be more powerful than the Holy Mountain? I also want to see if they can kill us today. A boundless, domineering aura emanated from handsome Su's body. The ordinary-looking little bird made countless people feel that it was extremely ferocious. That's right. The Bawang sect has never been afraid of anyone. Green Emperor also sneered and added. Asking Su-yi to settle it with Hong Chang-long alone was no different from sending himself to his death. Did he think that they were fools? Green Emperor, Yin-yang Emperor of the Dead, and the others gathered their auras again. They were ready to strike. At most, they would dye the sky red with blood, but they would still kill to their heart's content. Elder Bai, is it your suggestion to ask a young man at the Origin Void Realm to settle the feud with a sect leader at the Half-Origin Grandmaster Realm? In the Nine Stars Valley, Elder Tang said in a strange tone. He looked at Elder Bai as if he was looking at a fool. This is too much. If you were a member of the Bawang sect, do you think you would agree to such a request if you were not at a disadvantage? Chapter 1103. Not only did the people from Green Cloud Hall and Nine Stars Valley speak up, but even the spectators were in an uproar. If that's the case, isn't it obvious that they are bullying him? Su-yi is only 17 years old. Although Hong Qianlong looks young, he should be at least 50 or 60 years old. It's not fair for them to fight. Is this the idea of the Blood Sun sect to bully the young and the strong to bully the weak? At this moment, there were countless people who felt ashamed and felt indignant for Su-yi. However, due to the power of the Blood Sun sect, not many people dared to say it out loud like Elder Xie and the rest. This old fox is definitely up to no good. Su-yi thought to himself as a sharp glint flashed across his eyes. He was afraid that Hong Qianlong was still holding a grudge against him because of Wu Jiyo. Opposite Su-yi and the rest, Hong Qianlong did not say a word. He only looked at Su-yi with hatred in his eyes. Ha! Facing the questioning voices, Elder Bai still looked calm and said with a smile, Su-yi is the one who caused this trouble. I just don't want to see a bloody battle right after the Alliance Conference ends. Moreover, I also think that if sect leader Hong of the Tiangang sect fights, he will be suspected of bullying the young. Hearing this, Hong Qianlong could not help but raise his eyebrows and turn to look at Elder Bai. Everyone else pricked up their ears and wanted to hear what Elder Bai had to say next. So I have a suggestion. Why don't we let the Tiangang sect send someone to fight Su-yi? No matter what the result is, let's put aside the grudge between the two sides for the time being to show some respect to the Alliance of Chaos. What do all of you think? Elder Bai stroked his beard and raised his eyebrows as he asked. The crowd fell into deep thought and many people started to think. If that's the case, let the Tiangang sect send someone whose cultivation is similar to Su-yi to fight him. This is the fairest way. Elder Xie immediately said in a loud voice. Or we can choose someone from the same generation as us. As long as the difference in cultivation isn't too great, it'll be fine. Elder Tang also nodded and continued the conversation. But at this moment, Hong Qianlong frowned deeply. If this is the Elder's idea, then I'm afraid I'm going against the Elder's wishes by being here today. His eyes stared at Su-yi like a venomous snake, refusing to let go. He only wanted to kill this kid and avenge his only son. In fact, it wasn't that Hong Qianlong didn't fear the three first-rate powers. It was just that he knew that if he sent someone of similar cultivation level or age to fight with Su-yi, the Big Dipper sect's chances of victory would be extremely slim. One had to know that this Su-yi was someone who could even kill Hong Jianqiu. The most outstanding disciple of a first-rate force, Wu Jiyo, had been defeated by him like a stray dog. Their Heavenly Dipper sect couldn't find a suitable person to take action against Su-yi. To put it bluntly, Hong Qianlong didn't intend to let Su-yi go today. He didn't even want to give him a chance. The reason why he listened to Elder Bai's words was that he had to give face to Elder Bai. Green Cloud Hall and Nine Stars Valley? Su-yi also looked in the direction of the Green Cloud Hall and the Nine-Star Valley. Elder Xie and Elder Tang were actually speaking to him at this moment, which surprised him. Ha 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 ha! At this moment, Elder Bai began to laugh again, drawing everyone's attention back to himself. He said, "If I were Master Hong, I would definitely not agree to let the Tiangang sect's peers or people of the same cultivation level to fight. But if we let sect leader Hong or other origin emperors fight, it'll be too much of a bully. How about this? Let's let Heavenly Dipper sect send an Origin Void Realm martial artist. Coincidentally, Su-yi is also at the Origin Void Realm, so it won't be too unfair." What? As soon as he said that, the crowd burst into an uproar again. How dare you say it's not a bully? It's obvious that they want to kill Su-yi. It seems like Wu Jiuyo and Su-yi have a deep grudge. The Blood Sun sect actually wants to harm him like this. What a cunning old fox. If I were from the Bawang sect, I wouldn't agree to it. After talking nonsense for so long, it's as good as saying nothing. In the crowd of onlookers, who knew how many people were silently cursing at this moment, Su-yi was only 17 years old. Even if he had outstanding talent, entered the Origin Void Realm early, and became the king of prodigies in the Chaos region, he was at most at the early stage of the Origin Void Realm. He was probably at the second level. According to Elder Bai, if the Heavenly Dipper sect sent an Origin Void Realm martial artist to fight, what difference would the outcome make? Wouldn't it still be a bully? At this moment, many people were on Su-yi's side from the bottom of their hearts. They were angry. After grumbling for so long, they did not expect the outcome to be the same. Everyone felt that the Blood Sun sect was a bully. If they were from the Bawang sect, they would definitely not agree to this request. After all, if they really fought, it was not certain who would emerge victorious between them and the Heavenly Dipper sect. This old dog is really not a good person. Su-yi's eyes had completely darkened. He took a deep look at Elder Bai of the Blood Sun sect and Wu Jiuyo who was beside him. He remained calm and did not show any dissatisfaction. Instead, the corners of his mouth curled up into a cold smile. "Elder Bai, I'm afraid this is still inappropriate." Elder Xie spoke again with a deep frown on his face. He could not understand what the Blood Sun sect was planning. However, just as he raised his doubts, a clear voice resounded in the crowd, instantly shocking countless people. "I agree to this condition." The person who spoke was none other than Su-yi. He walked past the Green Emperor, the Yin-Yang Underworld Emperor, Ji Tianfu, Feng Qizong, and the others and directly faced Hong Qianlong. He did not avert his eyes, and a heroic spirit surged from his body. No way. What is Su-yi thinking? He actually agreed to it. The Heavenly Dipper sect will definitely not let him go easily. If they send someone at the 8th or 9th level of the Origin Void stage, how will he deal with it? Is this guy arrogant? He actually dares to agree to such a condition. Too many people did not dare to believe their ears. They only felt that Su-yi was too arrogant. This young man was very strong, but he was still too young and had not grown up yet. If he agreed to this condition, he would definitely suffer a great loss. This kid, Elder Xie, Elder Tang, and the others were shocked and deeply puzzled at this moment. No matter what, there was no need for Su-yi to agree to such an unreasonable condition. Baizun was obviously trying to trick him, although they did not know the reason. Tisk, looking at Su-yi's gaze, Hong Qianlong laughed coldly as if he was looking at a dead man. He never expected that Su-yi would actually agree to it. This greatly surprised Hong Qianlong. "Kid, what are you trying to do?" Ji Tianfu frowned and came to Su-yi's side to ask. Feng Qizong and the others also came over. "We don't have to agree to it. If worse comes to worst, we'll just fight." "I'm not afraid of Hong Qianlong." Merciless West also spoke to Su-yi. "That's right, boss. We don't have to discuss with them at all. We'll just fight." Little handsome Su said in a deep and domineering voice. They were very clear about Su Yi's approximate strength, and the Heavenly Dipper sect would definitely send someone at the 8th or 9th level of the Origin Void stage. At that time, it would be extremely troublesome for Su Yi to deal with, and it was very likely that he would be directly crushed. None of them were willing to see such an outcome. Su Yi straightened his face and turned his head to say to the people beside him, "We don't have the upper hand in today's matter. Moreover, we'll drag the Xianjian sect and 6 Unity sect into this as well. It's not wise to fight them head-on. Since that's the case, why don't I go alone and decide the outcome with one battle? Kid, since my Xianjian sect has already made a move, we'll naturally advance and retreat together with you," Ji Tianfu said. "That's right. Since my 6 Unity sect has already gotten involved, even if we withdraw now, the Heavenly Dipper sect will definitely not let us go easily. Why can't we fight here today? Little brother Su Yi, you don't have to put yourself in danger at all." Elder Guming from 6 Unity sect also spoke to Su Yi. After he finished speaking, Ji Tianfu slowly took a small step forward and invisibly shielded Su Yi behind him. Hearing the determination in their voices and their actions, Su Yi felt a surge of warmth in his heart. The Chaos Realm was indeed a place where the strong were respected and there were killings everywhere. However, there were still many places where one could meet such loyal and righteous people. Based on the help that the Xianjian sect and 6 Unity sect had given him today, Su Yi decided that he would befriend these 2 sects no matter what. "Everyone, don't worry." Su Yi felt very touched. However, he still walked to the front and said, "Since I've agreed to it, I have my own confidence. You don't have to worry. Just look at me from now on." He smiled gently and gave Merciless West, Ji Tianfu, Guming, and the rest a reassuring look. Then, he waved his sleeve and said loudly, "I agree to the proposal just now. Send someone from the Heavenly Dipper sect to fight me." Su Yi pointed the long sword in his hand and stared directly at Hong Qianlong. He was fearless. "Sect leader Hong, Su Yi has agreed to it. What do you think?" At this time, Elder Bai squinted his eyes and asked Hong Qianlong with a faint smile on his face. In fact, he just wanted to trick Su Yi a little. If that kid didn't agree to it, he still had other tricks up his sleeve. However, he didn't expect that Su Yi would agree to it so readily. While Bai Zun was surprised, he also sneered in his heart. "All right, I agree to it too." Hong Qianlong's words were deep and the hatred in his eyes became more intense. At the same time, an awe-inspiring aura exuded from him. He sneered in his heart. He didn't expect Su Yi to be so arrogant. Chapter 1104. Haha, great. Elder Bai Zun laughed and said loudly, "Since both of you have agreed to it, that's for the best. No matter what the outcome is, let's put aside the enmity between the Bawang sect and the Heavenly Dipper sect for now. Consider it as giving face to the Blood Sun sect and the other forces in the alliance." He stroked his beard and was very satisfied with the outcome. Bai Zun only wanted to drag Su Yi into the pit. Firstly, he wanted to test the young man's strength. Secondly, he wanted to take the opportunity to find out what kind of treasure the weapon spirit he obtained was. If it was necessary, he would not hesitate to make a move and snatch the treasure away. It was not really for the sake of face at all. Sigh. Many people in the surroundings sighed softly at this moment. It seemed like there was no turning back now. Even Elder Xie of the Blue Cloud Hall and Elder Tang of the 9 Stars Valley didn't say anything. Su Yi had already made his decision, so it was not right for them to criticize him. "Deacon Zhan Yong, you'll fight this bastard on my behalf?" Hong Qianlong said. "Yes, sect leader." In an instant, a middle-aged man who looked like he was in his 40s walked out from the crowd nearby. He was from the Heavenly Dipper sect who came with Elder Wu and the others. The middle-aged man was dressed in a gray robe. He had a ferocious face and a sturdy body. There was a faint, domineering aura emanating from his body. His figure soared into the sky and arrived next to Hong Qianlong. He bowed respectfully and said, "I'll definitely wring this kid's head off and avenge the young sect leader." Subsequently, the middle-aged man named Zhan Yong turned to look at Sui. A blazing fire attribute energy surged out from his body. The high temperature instantly spread out and rolled towards Sui. The peak of the 9th level of the Origin Void stage. What a powerful aura! When Zhan Yong's aura spread out, many martial artists with weaker cultivation bases in the surroundings felt fear and trepidation. The peak of the 9th level of the Origin Void stage was already an extremely powerful cultivation base. In a force like the Heavenly Dipper sect, one could become a deacon and hold authority. What's Su Yi's cultivation base? How could he possibly be a match for a peak 9th level of the Origin Void stage? Such a stunning talent, is he still unable to escape death today? Sui also has no choice. The Heavenly Dipper sect is not to be trifled with. Many people sighed and felt worried for Sui. At the same time, they felt deeply helpless. This was a world where strength was respected. If you were not strong enough, you could only be bullied by others. If it weren't for the Blood Sun sect's words today, coupled with the mediation of the Blue Cloud Palace and the 9 Stars Valley, there would definitely be a terrifying battle. Sui probably didn't want to see such a scene, which was why he agreed to Elder Bai's suggestion. He really found a peak 9th level Origin Void stage martial artist. "Kid, are you confident?" Merciless West looked at Sui and asked worriedly. The others also looked at him, wanting to see the expression on his face. "Don't worry, I know what to do." Sui nodded and said seriously. He sneered in his heart. Baizun wanted to scheme against him, and Hong Qianlong wanted to kill him. But from Suyi's point of view, weren't those people within his scheme as well? Presently, his greatest reliance was his cultivation that had just broken through to the 5th level of the Origin Void stage. This was something that no one in the outside world knew. It just so happened that Sui wanted to test his current strength. If he could use this opportunity to resolve today's situation, Sui would be extremely happy. The Heavenly Dipper sect was not to be trifled with, but he didn't want to drag the Profound Sword sect and 6 Unity sect into this. Peak 9th level Origin Void stage? So what if we fight? Sui directly walked past Merciless West and the others and stepped into the sky as he stared intently at the middle-aged man called Zhan Yong. The Origin Chaos Supreme technique in his body was circulated and a powerful aura was released, causing the sky to faintly tremble. But his aura caused Zhan Yong, who was opposite him, to let out a wave of cold laughter. "Kid who overestimates himself. You dare to challenge me when you're only at the initial level of the Origin Void stage. Today, I'll definitely wring your head off to comfort the young sect master's soul in heaven." Zhan Yong's voice was savage and his face was filled with contempt and ridicule. Needless to say, he really admired Suyi's courage. However, the more it was like this, the more Zhan Yong would not show any mercy. This was a very good opportunity to perform a meritorious service. Once he was recognized by the sect master, his status in the Heavenly Dipper sect would definitely rise by a large margin. Zhan Yong mobilized all the origin energy in his body, intending to kill Sui with a single strike. Moreover, this strike had to be clean and efficient. Sizzle! Terrifying flames flashed out from Zhan Yong's body and clusters of blazing flames burned fiercely. In an instant, the space he stood in seemed to have been set ablaze, and it became extremely blazing. The mountain rocks below became completely crimson red under the high temperature, and some places even started to melt. They're about to make a move. I wonder if Sui can block Zhan Yong's strike. Many people were worried and didn't look favorably upon Sui. Sui Ji Hanua Lin Bingyao, Lin Donghao, Chinchuan Ji Tianfu, and the others all had eyes filled with worry. Only Merciless West, Sui, and the others weren't overly worried. They all retreated to the distance and left the battlefield to Sui and Zhan Yong. But at the same time, Merciless West was constantly making preparations. If Sui was unable to defeat Zhan Yong, he would make a move at the first possible moment to save Sui. At that time, he would surely not reason with the Blood Sun sect, Heavenly Dipper sect, and the other powers, and he would still fight. The peak of the 9th level of the Origin Void stage is truly formidable. Sui's pupils constricted, and when he saw such a scene, he sighed endlessly in his heart. In his field of vision, Zhan Yong was like a lofty god of fire at this moment, and his entire body was enveloped in flames. "Kid, hand over your life!" Zhan Yong suddenly shouted out explosively and directly flew towards Sui. At the same time that he moved, within the flames that covered the sky, there were actually strands of black gas that carried an extremely heavy aura that surged out. This was the energy of the Earth attribute, and Zhan Yong was even a dual attribute martial artist. Moreover, the primary and secondary attributes were distinct, and both were ferocious. When the energy of the Earth attribute appeared, the vast flames moved along with it and instantly climbed up and coiled around the energy of the Earth attribute. Instantly, there was a terrifying might that was vast and mighty in the heavens and the earth. The energy of the Earth attribute condensed and seemed to have transformed into the image of a mountain that appeared in the sky. Under the burning of the raging flames, the entire image of the mountain became crimson red. The two blended with each other, and within the heaviness was blazing, and within the blazing was ferociousness. This flaming mountain abruptly assaulted Sui. So strong. The heat wave assaulted his face, and Sui's eyes narrowed tightly. His body split open under the might of the mountain, and his skin burned with pain, and even the clothes on his entire body started burning. This 9th level Origin Void stage Zhan Yong wasn't far from the Origin Monarch stage, and he wasn't much different from Huang Jian when she first met him. Sui felt enormous pressure, and this pressure was too terrifying. In the blink of an eye, it caused him to have a feeling as if he was about to be crushed. Rumble, the sky was trembling and the air was roiling. Many figures in the distance had already retreated, and they didn't dare stay nearby. "Sui is about to lose?" someone muttered, and when they saw Sui didn't make a move right away, they were able to imagine what sort of pressure the youth was enduring at this moment. He probably didn't have much strength to resist when a peak 9th level Origin Void stage expert made a move. Many people sighed with emotion. But right at this moment, they saw Sui make a move. The youth's feet suddenly stepped on the sky, and he raised his head to face the flaming mountain that pressed down towards him. At the same time, the tip of his tongue exploded like spring thunder as he abruptly spat out 5 words. "Golden Dragon suppresses the 9 heavens." As soon as these words were spoken, the aura on Sui's body abruptly changed, and it was as if an ancient and heroic soul had awoken from within his body. Roar! In the next instant, a dragon's roar sounded out from the ground, and it seemed as if it had passed through the primeval times and traversed through the ages. A nearby mountain directly exploded apart with a bang under this dragon's roar. Subsequently, a golden light bloomed in the sky like a scorching sun in the sky, and it was dazzling to the point one couldn't open their eyes. When one's eyes narrowed to look over, a terrifying golden dragon's body appeared, and it was covered in dense scales and carried along a terrifying feeling of strength as it directly rose up into the sky to greet the flaming mountain. Rumble! The golden dragon's body swayed down from the sky, and its terrifying aura crushed down, causing the heavens and the earth to shake, the earth to split open, and the mountain ridge to collapse. Crack! Crack! A terrifying might covered the entire area as the golden dragon's body twisted and directly collided with Zhan Yong's flaming mountain without dodging. Boom, 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 boom. Terrifying explosions rang out, and a series of explosions resounded through the clouds. Golden light surged, flames shot out, and the shadow of the mountain peak collapsed. A domineering and absolute power instantly filled this space, transforming into a storm that swept in all directions, engulfing the heavens and the earth. Everything that came into contact with it was turned into dust. Puff, puff! In the crowd of spectators in the distance, there were muffled groans and coughs of blood one after another. Many people's faces instantly turned pale, and their injuries were not light. It was unknown if it was because of the dragon's roar or because of the terrifying storm. Two figures shot out from the storm in the opposite direction. It was Su Yi and Zhan Yong. The two of them only came to a stop after flying back several hundred feet. Wah! Zhan Yong opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of scarlet blood. His body was bent like a prawn, and he could not even straighten his waist. His face was as pale as paper. Puff! Su Yi also spat out blood. His aura was dispirited, and his clothes were burned into a paste that stuck to his body. The two of them faced each other dozens of feet away, and their chi was weak. One look and one could tell that they were severely injured. The people from the Green Cloud Palace, Nine Star Valley, Blood Sun Sect, Tiangang Sect, Bawang Sect, Xianjian Sect, Liuhe Sect, and other forces were all staring at the two of them. For a long time, no one spoke. The entire place was filled with an extremely strange silence. Chapter 1105. Su Yi withstood it, and both he and Zhan Yong suffered heavy injuries. How is this possible? How did he do it? Isn't he around the second level of the Origin Void stage? How can he be so strong? Unbelievable! Too terrifying! The full-force attack of a peak 9th level Origin Void stage martial artist was blocked just like that. Numerous pairs of astonished gazes looked at the young man's figure in the arena, and astonishment hung on their faces. No one could believe that Su Yi was actually able to block that attack just like that, and was even able to injure both Zhan Yong and Zhan Yong. How can he be so strong? In the dark cloud hall, Sure Susu's beautiful eyes were filled with astonishment. She had fought Su Yi several times in the vast spirit secret realm, and although she was defeated every time, she was able to discern that Su Yi's cultivation was not much higher than her. However, the young man was actually able to resist a peak 9th level Origin Void stage martial artist. How exactly did he do it? Not only Sure Susu, but Elder Xie, Qin Yuxing, and everyone from the 9 Stars Valley and the Blood Sun sect were all shocked. What technique did Su Yi use earlier? It's so terrifying. It's absolutely not an ordinary martial skill. And his cultivation is definitely not at the second level of the Origin Void stage. Judging from that aura earlier, it's already at the 5th level of the Origin Void stage. Su Yi is a 5th level Origin Void stage martial artist. Everyone's eyes were filled with astonishment. The appearance of the golden dragon earlier seemed to have descended, and it carried the mysterious aura of the primeval times. It was the most shocking. Such a technique caused countless people to be shocked. This kid is extraordinary. Extraordinary. Elder Xie's eyes shook, and the corners of his mouth trembled as he muttered. Boss, how are you? Su Little Handsome instantly flew to Su Yi's side and asked. I'm fine. Su Yi shook his head and gulped down a mouthful of spirit liquid as he looked at Zhan Yong with a deep gaze. What he used earlier was the Dragon Clan's innate skill. Golden Dragon suppresses the 9 heavens. It was obtained in the Golden Dragon's space. After refining 9 drops of Golden Dragon blood essence and 3 strands of Golden Dragon's soul, Su Yi also mastered a soul technique called the World Suppression Dragon Soul Chant. This was the first time Su-Yi had used Golden Dragon Crush the 9 Heavens to face an enemy, and it directly repelled an existence at the peak of the 9th level of the Origin Void stage. The effect was extremely formidable and exceeded his expectations. "You little bastard!" Seeing this scene, Hong Qianlung's eyelids twitched incessantly, and he didn't conceal his resentment at all. He glared fiercely at Zhang Yong and asked coldly, "Can you still fight?" Sect Master, a fierce look appeared in Zhang Yong's eyes. Just as he was about to say that they could fight again, he opened his mouth and spat out another mouthful of blood, dyeing the void red. His figure that was hovering in midair suddenly swayed, and he almost fell to the ground. His entire aura withered a little more. Obviously, he didn't have the strength to attack anymore. Hong Chang-Yu's face became extremely unsightly. His face was so long that it almost touched the ground. 9th level of the Origin Void stage? I didn't expect you to be so weak. Su-Yi mocked Zhang Yong as he raised his middle finger. Although he was injured at this time, if he fought again, he would definitely be able to use a few % of his strength. He didn't expect Zhang Yong to be unable to fight again. "Little bastard, you're courting death," Hong Chang-Yu shouted coldly. His aura soared and rolled towards Su-Yi. "Humph. If you want to fight, I, Merciless West, will keep you company." Merciless West stepped out and said to Hong Chang-Yu. He had been on guard against Hong Chang-Yu to prevent him from launching a sneak attack. At this moment, he directly used his soul energy to block in front of Su-Yi. The result is out. In my opinion, there's no need to fight anymore. At this moment, Elder Xie from the Azure Cloud Halls group smiled and said, "The Heavenly Dipper sect no longer has the strength to fight, so they have lost. Since that's the case, let's follow our agreement and let go of all enmity today for the sake of the alliance." Su-Yi raised his eyebrows when he heard these words. He felt that Elder Xie was very strange. He seemed to be very relaxed. Moreover, it was obvious that Elder Xie was speaking for him. "That's right. Since it's over, let's leave. In the future, no one will meddle in your affairs." Elder Tang of the 9 Stars Valley chimed in from the side. But, at this moment, Elder Baizun, who was dressed in a green robe from the Blood Sun sect, began to panic. He wanted to seize the opportunity to deal with Su-Yi to test his strength. Who would have thought it would end like this? "What's wrong, Elder Bai?" As soon as Elder Baizun spoke, Elder Xie turned to look at him. He looked at him strangely and said in surprise, "You're the one who came up with this idea. Elder Bai, do you have anything else to say?" Elder Tang also looked at him. His eyes seemed to be asking questions, but in fact they all knew what was going on. They were not stupid. They had long known that Elder Bai was scheming against Su-Yi. No matter what the Blood Sun sect was planning, as one of the 3 first-rate forces, it was only right for them to cause some trouble. "Nothing." Elder Bai's face turned red. It was green with a tinge of red, red with a tinge of purple, and purple with a tinge of black. He was the one who came up with the idea. If he were to stop them now, he would be slapping himself in the face. Elder Bai was furious. He did not know whether to curse the Heavenly Dipper sect for being too useless or that Su-Yi was too strong. "Sect Leader Hong, do you have anything else to say?" Elder Xie looked at Hong Qianlong when he saw that Elder Bai had given in. If Elder Xie still had to show some respect to the Blood Sun sect, he would not be courteous to Hong Qianlong at all. Elder Xie's question sounded especially deep, as if there was no room for doubt. Hong Qianlong did not answer. His eyes were extremely gloomy as he stared at Su-Yi. However, he seemed to feel a faint pressure coming from Elder Xie and Elder Tang. It seemed that if he said no, the Blue Cloud Palace and the 9 Stars Valley would immediately intervene. "The enmity of my son, Jian Qiu, is irreconcilable. Little bastard, you can escape now, but you can't hide forever." One day I'll crush your bones and scatter your ashes. I'll destroy your body and soul so that you'll never be reincarnated. Hong Qianlong finally glared at Sui. Then, he waved his sleeves and said in a rough voice, "Let's go." As soon as he finished speaking, he had already moved dozens of feet with a single step. Elder Wu and the other members of the Tiangang sect took one last look at Sui and then left with their disciples. However, no one cared about the heavily injured Zhan Yong. He could only stagger and fly alone as he hurriedly chased after them. They left. The people of the Tiangang sect retreated. Sui is safe. The Bawang sect has defeated the Tiangang sect. As the people of the Tiangang sect left, the scene became lively again. A large number of disciples and rogue cultivators were extremely enthusiastic. The Tiangang sect's retreat meant that they had given in. Under the power of Sui and the Bawang sect, even the sect leader of a second-rate force had to compromise and leave. Once this news spread, it would definitely shake the entire Chaos region. Of course, everyone knew that the influence of several first-rate forces was also a factor in this. "Boss, are you okay?" "Master, how are you?" Su Xiaoshui, the Green Emperor, the Yinyang Emperor of the Dead, Huang Jian, and the others immediately surrounded Sui and asked with concern. "Don't worry, I'm fine." Sui waved his hand and said with a smile. He was really fine. Although his injuries were not light, they were far from fatal. It was just that he had used up a lot of his spiritual qi. The golden dragon suppresses the 9 heavens was powerful, but it also consumed a lot of spiritual qi. Sui. At this time, a beautiful figure rushed out and came to Su Yi's side, her eyes twinkling. Looking at the woman in front of him, Su Yi smiled and said, "Miss Han Nuo, I'm fine. Boy, it's good that you're fine. We should go now." Ji Tianfu, Feng Qizong, Guming, Chen Chu, Lin Bingyao, and the others came to Su Yi's side. "Yes, the Alliance Conference is over. It's time to go back." Su Yi nodded. The matter in the secret realm of ominous spirits was over. It was time to leave. "I'm afraid the Tiangang sect will not let this go," Merciless West suddenly said. "Counter soldiers with arms and water with an earth weir. Moreover, the Heavenly Dipper sect does not have an advantage over us, unless they mobilize more people." Sui said. "Let's move together. It's better to be careful." Ji Tianfu said. "All right. Let's get ready to go." Merciless West nodded. Sui walked out of the crowd and walked in the direction of the Green Cloud Hall and 9 Stars Valley. He bowed to Elder Xie and Elder Tang and said, "Thank you for your help. I will remember your kindness today." His gratitude was sincere. The Green Cloud Hall and 9 Stars Valley did not have any relationship with him, and they were superior to him. The two of them had helped him more than once. Naturally, he would remember their kindness. "Young man, hurry up and go back," Elder Xie said with a smile and waved his hand. Elder Tang didn't say anything and merely nodded. "Farewell, senior." Sui bowed once more before turning around and leaving. Merciless West, Ji Tianfu, Guming, Lin Bingyao, Ji Hanua, Yuanxuan, Chen Chuan, the people from the 3 sects and the 3 rogue cultivators immediately followed and headed into the distance. Sui has also left. The Bawang sect has retreated unscathed. Watching this group of people leave, everyone present had complicated looks in their eyes. Merciless West didn't lose out in the battle against Half-Step Yuan Zong and became famous in one battle. It won't be long before his name will spread throughout the Chaos region. Sui swept through the Alliance Conference, overcoming all obstacles along the way and ignoring all the outstanding talents. In the end, he even fought against a peak 9th level Origin Void stage martial artist and heavily injured his opponent. Such a young man is rare in this world. The title of King of Heaven's Pride is not worthy of him. Discussions could be heard all over the place. No matter if it was the battle between Merciless West and Hong Qianlong or Su Yi suppressing Zhan Yong, everything that had happened today was so shocking. One old and one young, both of them had surmounted a level to battle and revealed abnormal abilities that made one's hair stand on end. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.